Inside the city, the buildings had been twisted and skewed, crushed between massive spikes jutting out from the ground. The blood-eyed black ape roared, smoke rising from his hands. Even though I dodged that explosion in time, he growled, I've already confirmed it. There isn't a single warrior in this city stronger than me. That means I can kill to my heart's content. From the ashes, the mayor crawled up, battered, burned, but still standing. He said nothing, his expression cold and determined. Slowly, he raised one hand toward the sky. Light began to swirl around him, his power reigniting in a blazing surge. Behind him, a dragon-shaped spirit beast formed out of wind and light. Night blade tempest. The blood-eyed black ape bared his fangs, his grin full of mockery. Human, he said scornfully, your resistance means nothing. You're only delaying your death. In his mind, he could already see humanity trembling in fear. To him, this battlefield had no natural enemies left. It had become a game, one designed to make humans scream, despair, and die. I can't wait, he hissed, to see the face of humanity's strongest twisted in fear and hopelessness. The stronger the psychological blows the monster delivered, the harder the mayor fought back with physical might. Blades of light struck the blood-eyed black ape, but he didn't flinch. His body remained untouched. Good speed, he sneered. But too weak. The mayor refused to give in and launched another attack. This time, the blood-eyed black ape chuckled darkly. Good power, but far too slow. He blurred forward, smashing through the ruins of fallen skyscrapers, heading straight for the mayor, leaning down until his massive face was inches away. The ape snarled, kneel. I hate it when creatures beneath me dare to look me in the eye. Only a flicker of surprise showed in the mayor's eyes. Seeing that, the blood-eyed black ape flew into a rage and threw a devastating punch. For a moment the ground bore the imprint of their clash, yet the mayor remained unharmed. The impact sharpened his gaze. The ape was momentarily stunned by the force. Why did the human show no fear? Now it was the mayor's turn. He pressed his hand to the earth and spoke coldly. Beast, you think you're clever, but you miscalculated. In the end you're nothing but an arrogant animal. The light the mayor wielded instantly solidified into cords of energy, wrapping around the blood-eyed black ape. The bloodbind technique had been unleashed. Too late. The ape realized with mounting regret. You led me into a formation on purpose, an earth vein sealing formation, it spat. As the sky above the battle turned from blue into an endless vortex, as if the world itself had shifted into apocalypse, the ape was sucked into the swirling maw and howled. Is this your trump card? You intend to seal me beneath the ground? How naive, human. It shifted to threats. You cannot imprison me forever. The moment your sand loosens even a little, I will burst out and tear every human here to pieces. But the mayor did not produce a trump card. He produced a hymn. He pulled his robe aside to reveal a 5-pointed star scar on his chest, then spoke in a steady, resonant voice. This is the hymn of humanity, the heroic anthem of courage. With that he struck the scar on his chest with a mighty blow. The ape recoiled in confusion. Its voice trembled. What are you going to do? Though gravely wounded and near madness, the mayor explained calmly. From the start of this battle I never planned to come back. Under Swan Lake I buried Unchink's one and only tactical nuclear device. Its starter unit was implanted within my heart. If my heart stops, the bomb will detonate. Upon hearing this the ape went utterly desperate. You dare threaten me with your own life? Who would ever use their own life as a condition? Do you think that scares me? A viscous fluid kept leaking from the corner of the mayor's mouth as he confessed the truth. From the beginning I never intended to return. After all, I am the mayor of Anqing. My name is Huang Jing. During a public address he once declared, I am Huang Jing. I vow to dedicate everything I have to Anqing and its people, even my life. Now, as the mayor slowly closed his eyes for the final time, he whispered faintly, It seems I've finally fulfilled that vow, haven't I? A blinding light erupted, mingling with the anguished roar of the blood-eyed black ape. The beast had been sealed away. That same light consumed the mayor's entire body. The radiance of hope spread across the entire city, followed by a cataclysmic explosion, one that shone like a nuclear blast. Seeing the final message left by the mayor, a soldier's eyes filled with tears as he shouted into the communicator, Emergency notice. All soldiers and martial artists evacuate immediately from the entrance area of Swan Lake's secret realm. Tactical nuclear detonation imminent. Evacuate at once. His voice trembled with emotion. It was gratitude, admiration, and grief all at once. Each soldier raised a hand in salute, bidding a final farewell to their mayor. Suo Zhou and Thielin stood silently, bowing their heads in a 1-minute tribute. From afar, everyone watched the magnificent, devastating sight. A colossal mushroom cloud rose into the sky like a tombstone. Those martial artists who had been warned in time and escaped the blast radius stood in reverent silence. To them, this was not merely an explosion, it was a grand funeral. For a hero. The blast shook the entire region to its core. The blood-eyed black ape was burned to the bone, leaving behind a towering skeleton. But from the void a sphere of flame appeared. Somehow, that fireball fed energy back into him. Cell by cell, the blood-eyed black ape was reconstituted, flesh and muscle knitted over his charred bones, rebuilding his body piece by piece. All of the mayor's sacrifice seemed to be for nothing. The ape's single scarlet eye opened wide, staring straight into the deepest recesses of humanity's heart. Slowly he rose to his feet, muttering in disbelief, "I didn't expect." That lowly human nearly turned the tables on me. Though far from fully recovered, he bellowed, "I will slaughter every human in this city. I will make them die in the most brutal way possible." Dragging his partly ruined form, he began to crawl back toward the abyss, to the beast realm, saying, "First I will restore my blood vigor, then I will flatten this place. They call the secret realm of the monsters the abyss." A voice cut through his delusion. "Where do you think you're going?" At the moment humanity teetered on the brink, he appeared like a god. The blood-eyed black ape gaped in shock. "That human. I remember. He is one of the greatest obstacles to our beast tide's invasion. A terrifying human genius." He had cursed that he'd arrived a moment too late. At last he'd found the beast. But regrettably a step behind, he surged forward and thrust his hand out, unleashing the core bombardment fist. To his surprise, the blood-eyed black ape dodged, and in doing so awakened some latent power. His eyes flicked toward the creature, showing a mix of confusion and alarm. Now the ape had the upper hand. "Foolish human genius," it snarled. "In a decisive battle like this you don't hide in the rear. You come charging straight in front of me. You're giving me the perfect chance to destroy you." One thing it hadn't expected was his reply. He smiled and said coolly, "If you try to run, my mini-nuclear titan might not even hit you, so please allow me to give you one more." Cornered, the blood-eyed black ape could only mutter in helpless fury, "Humans. Truly." Shockwaves rolled outward as blue electric currents wrapped the ape with no escape. A sphere formed in the beast's chest, swelling as if ready to detonate from within. Another explosion of nuclear scale erupted for the whole city to witness. Everyone watched in horror. "Look, why is there another nuclear blast? What's going on over there? Could this be the contingency the mayor Huang Jing left behind?" They wondered. Awed by the sacrifice, they mistook what they saw for the mayor's last gambit, fitting for Huang Jing's legacy. Through the smoke, the blood-eyed black ape staggered into view, utterly desperate and broken. He whimpered, Monster. He has shifted into a beastly form himself and activated Imperial Awakening Colossus." The ape snapped indignantly, "Hey, why do you look more beast-like than I do? Even Lord-class beasts don't radiate the aura you carry." He had finished his transformation and sneered with contempt, "I'm nothing like a naked monkey like you." Now his size was thousands of times that of the blood-eyed black ape. With a casual flick of his hand he easily crushed the beast. The ape was mauled, twisted and broken under that force. He had taunted, "Don't run, little Marquis," and then launched a technique, Lan Shan Fist, Black Abyss. The blood-eyed black ape mustered a last reserve of strength to strike back. "Don't underestimate an overlord," it snarled. The two blows met, wildly mismatched, and a bolt of electricity arced between them. The resulting blast blew a hole in the sky. He had felt a flicker of respect. After all, this was an overlord-class beast, even gravely wounded and skinny as a monkey. It was still a monkey that packs power. Despite being opponents, he acknowledged it. "In my Mala Colossus form my composite physique has passed 30 points, he thought. "Yet I still couldn't overpower you, and you even managed to wound my arm. But that still isn't enough to make me respect you." The ape lay on the ground as if ready to give up, stunned that his full power strike caused damage, yet he recovered so quickly. Then, suddenly, it snapped awake. "No, I can't beat this genius," it muttered in panic, and it scrambled to flee, babbling, "Can't beat, can't beat, can't beat." There was no escape. Iho was right behind it, and decided not to leave a way out. He shifted back into human form, thinking coldly, "You beast, you do not deserve the life Huang gave." Without another word he unleashed Core Earth Aura. The blood-eyed black ape's body disintegrated amid its curses. "Damn you, human genius," it rasped as it was torn apart. In a ruined, desolate place, Emperor Mala stood and spoke up. That monkey burrowed into the ground and played dead, Iha, speaking from inside Emperor Mala's body, answered gravely. Playing dead also means it's scared, afraid of being found. It's been wounded worse than I've ever seen. This is the best chance to finish it. It seems even Overlord-class beasts can hide their aura so others can't detect them. Iha's expression shifted for a moment. He sounded a little worried. If we'd found it earlier, Mayor Huang might still be alive. Suddenly Emperor Mala's foot glowed and the earth cracked open, Iha continued. But now it's grievously wounded. Even its stealth will be affected. Any faint life signal will give it away. I can sense even the weakest flicker. Tension crackled in the air. From within Emperor Mala, Iha called out sharply as he spotted something. Found you, you damn monkey. At once Emperor Mala shot a column of light skyward. The beam traveled in a straight line and hurled the monkey out of its hiding place. The monkey snapped, eyes flashing with hatred. Damn it, I almost sensed the abyss entrance nearby. If not for that damned human mayor who set a trap for me. Shortly after, the ape took another crushing blow from Emperor Mala. It opened its maw and spat a blinding beam of light. The blast struck the monkey dead center. Iha said coldly, That's the price for daring to defile Mayor Huang. I'll make sure you wish you were dead. Though staggered and barely standing, the blood-eyed black ape still fought back. He gripped a massive mace and spat venom. Don't get cocky, you vermin. I'll drain the last of my Makor's power and drag you all down to hell. As he spoke, the mace in his hand crackled with energy. His right arm swelled grotesquely, violet sparks crawling over it. He leapt skyward, roaring in fury. Die! Iha refused to stand by. He ordered Emperor Mala to counterattack. Lanshan fist, black abyss. The two blows slammed into each other, sending shockwaves rippling through the air. But to everyone's shock, Emperor Mala's arm cracked open. Blood poured from the wound in a sudden gush. The blood-eyed black ape fared no better. It was blasted away by the impact. The strike had wounded Iha as well. But instead of panic, he felt a surge of exhilaration after the desperate exchange. Seizing the moment, he commanded Emperor Mala to unleash the finishing move. Leo, you have nowhere left to run. At that instant a wave of pressure slammed into him. A psychic assault. Pain exploded behind his eyes. His head throbbed so fiercely he clutched it, his thoughts scattering into chaos. Iha frowned in confusion. Another powerhouse? Just then, beneath Emperor Mala's massive feet, countless hands began clawing their way up from the ground. The blood-eyed black ape, still not completely dead, rasped weakly, Don't think you can run. Iha's eyes darted toward the white masses at Emperor Mala's joints. Within the colossal body's connecting segments, arms were sprouting. He could no longer control the titan. The writhing limbs jammed its joints tight, locking the entire body in place. But in Iha's eyes, a manic glint flashed. His entire form erupted in blue flames. Don't think you can imprison me with this. The azure blaze surged outward, engulfing Emperor Mala, one by one. The grasping arms burned to ash. Now, Emperor Mala stood like a raging inferno beneath the heavens. The very air shimmered with heat. Feel the wrath of a flame that burns everything dry. While the spectral hands still tried to restrain the titan, the blood-eyed black ape crawled desperately toward a nearby gate. Almost there. The entrance. But he froze. Emperor Mala loomed closer like a demon god, his burning form radiating unbearable pressure. Seeing that, the ape screamed in panic. Hurry! That giant's coming! His whole body's on fire! Run, now! The countless hands obeyed. Stretching higher, they lifted something, a head, grotesque and twisted, emitting eerie, guttural cries. Iha halted, stunned. What in the world is that thing? Could it be another beast? Before him stood a monster of unspeakable shape. Its presence alone made the air tremble. What terrifying power! Could this one be a dominator as well? He clenched his fists, his breath unsteady. If its true body were to descend, I might have to kneel the moment it appears. The entire city had sunk into black smoke. Everything lay in ruins. No trace of life remained. Seeing this, the monster advanced swiftly. It raised its hands to pry its own eyes wide open, and with that, its power awakened. The energy within it swelled, bursting out from both eyes and mouth. While countless arms around it supported its monstrous frame, Iha staggered, his mind spinning under the deafening sound the creature emitted. He had already sealed off the auditory functions of his hypercolossal persona, and yet that grotesque voice still pierced directly into his brain. At that very moment, Iha unleashed all his remaining strength. His body grew larger, muscles bulging with divine fury. The air itself trembled and steamed around him. Iha roared in rage. I will avenge them. You slaughtered so many of our people, and now you think you can just walk away from Anqing? Driven by vengeance, he opened his eyes wide and bellowed. Delusional dream! Both his hands ignited with power, beams of light erupted, surging toward the heavens. Suddenly, the monster, shrouded in blinding light and smoke, charged at Iha. Its veins bulged violently as it poured every ounce of its strength into one last strike. Iha reacted instantly. He planted a core before being blasted backward. Despite the impact, he grinned, sticking out his tongue in defiance. This one's a special nuclear core, from our homeland. Hope you enjoy it, you filthy beast. Cracks began to appear all over the monster's body. From those fissures, light leaked out, flickering wildly. It screamed in agony, unable to respond in time. And then, it exploded, the sky filled with dark clouds. But then, a blinding ray of light pierced through them. People watching from afar stared in disbelief. Look, that rift in the secret realm. It's exploding. What's happening? Why are the beasts suddenly going berserk? Could it be that Mayor Huang Jing succeeded? In that moment, everyone regained hope. No, we must not let Mayor Huang Jing's sacrifice be in vain. Anqing has been saved. Finally, good triumphed over evil. Anqing was returned to peace, free from the torment of the beasts. Perhaps the remnants of the blood-eyed black ape were finally consumed by the Colossus-scale nuclear detonation. The tide of beasts that had poured through the rift into Anqing began to thin. As if the other world had stopped its invasion, the martial artists of Anqing began sweeping up the remaining monsters inside the city. The purge lasted a full day and night. They only stopped after every beast they could find had been eliminated. Exhausted warriors finally allowed themselves to rest. Suo Zhou, battered and bloodied, still gripped his sword and bowed his head. The defensive battle for Anqing had been won, but at a terrible cost. Nearly 80% of the city's martial artists and soldiers were dead or gravely wounded. Swan Lake had turned black, scorched and devastated. Iha lay motionless on the ground. Fortunately, he regained consciousness after a while. He sat up with difficulty. His whole body felt numb and exhausted. How long had he slept? Although he had poured every ounce of nuclear energy in his body into the Colossus-form detonation, the battlefield had already been saturated with nuclear radiation and fission energy residue. So once his internal power was drained, he could simply recharge right there from the fallout. His eyes gazed into the distance, reflecting deeply on everything that had just transpired. The battle had been unimaginably harsh. Mayor Huang Jing had personally entered the fray, luring the Xuetong He Yuan, blood-eyed black ape, into the blast zone, inflicting grievous injuries upon it. Only then was he able to exploit the terrain around the nuclear detonation site, repeatedly self-detonating, and finally destroying the creature before that mysterious woman could save it. Though victorious, he has still blamed himself. He lowered his head in regret. His Wuxian Guai Wuma Xing, infinite monster form, was indeed powerful, yet still not enough to rival a Dominator-class beast. This victory, he realized, had relied on favorable timing, geography, and a touch of luck. However, he has soon steadied his resolve. Rising to his feet with quiet determination, he vowed that given enough time, he would one day stand at the pinnacle of Xiaoguo's might. But after this Beijing riots, there would no longer be time to grow slowly. The next model extraction could take who knows how long, and even then, there was no guarantee it would yield a gold-grade form. The fastest path toward becoming a top-tier powerhouse was to fuse with the Jingzhu Di Ma La, Imperial Crystal Pillar, model. To achieve that, he would have to accelerate the collection of plant-type Ma cores compatible with its structure. He pondered over everyone's martial abilities, especially the Xuan Huang Wuji, Mystic Emperor martial cannon. If the infinite monster form allowed him to cheat within the martial spatial domain, then he must also master the superhuman martial system. Although the growth of Xuan Huang Wuji was slower than the evolution of the monster model, its potential was immense. After all, it was a cultivation system from a high martial world. Heaven itself seemed to rejoice in their victory. Anqing was safe. Dawn broke, signaling a new day, brighter, more hopeful. Iha looked up toward the horizon. Perhaps his transmigration to this world was destined to fulfill a mission uniquely his own. In the weeks that followed, Anqing was gradually rebuilt. Its atmosphere regained warmth and harmony. The city once again alive after long days of despair. A month after the catastrophe, Iha sat calmly on a park bench, scrolling through his phone. The news was still flooded with reports about the recent war. Across the whole Xiagua, 18 cities had been attacked by the beast tide, 12 of which had fallen completely. In Guanshan City, an S-rank secret realm had manifested, the entire city now shrouded in an impenetrable gray mist. The National Martial Organization, Da Xia Long Chue, Great Xia Dragon Sparrow, had dispatched 30 Xuan Wu-level warriors and 5 grandmasters, led by Grandmaster Du Jingming, to investigate. Experts rated this campaign as extremely perilous. The beast tide invasion was far from ordinary. Even level 5 secret realms had appeared. Fu Hongxing, Xiagua's most powerful Zhenghua-class warrior, had been stationed at the edge of the secret realm, but no trace of the exploration team had been found since their entry. Fu Hongxing personally entered Guanshan City, and it was not until 8 hours later that he returned, gravely wounded. Accompanied by only 2 surviving grandmasters, from that day onward, Xiagua classified Guanshan as the 11th life-forbidden zone on the planet, officially confirming that 1.08 million people had perished within its walls. Hearing the news, Iha felt a chill run down his spine. Even a national guardian, level martial artist has the survival of humankind on Lanxing truly become this desperate? No, he muttered, I can't just sit and wait any longer. Without hesitation, he called Qin Lan. Aunt Qin, I need to ask you for a favor. Inside her luxurious villa, Qin Lan leaned back leisurely, listening to his voice through the communicator. What is it? You want to learn the remaining 2 forms of Xuan Huangwu Ji from the Liu family? She had misunderstood. Hearing that, Iha burst out laughing. Do I really look that kind of person to you, Aunt Qin? No, it's something else. I need your help purchasing several high-quality plant attribute demon cores, preferably blue ones, or, if possible, even violet domain lord, grade cores. Qin Lan raised an eyebrow. That's quite the appetite you've got there. Plant-type beasts are already rare, and domain lord level cores are even rarer. If you want that many, what can you possibly offer in return? Iha grinned slyly, as if holding a winning card. Every year, Huadi University holds a Mystic Realm trial for incoming freshmen. I can form a team with Liu Qingzhu and help her win first place. Qin Lan's sharp gaze turned cold, suspicious. You underestimate the prodigies from other provinces far too much. Let me remind you, Qingzhu's strength, even during her years at the Imperial Capital University, was only above average. She's not in the top echelon, and though you bested her once in a duel, you're still far from those true monsters out there. Iha chuckled confidently. But Aunt Qin, aren't you out of options? You've pinned all of Liu family's revival hopes on me. I'll even put it in writing. If I don't win first place in the freshman trials, I'll serve your family for life, as your loyal servant, tending to your every need. Qin Lan's lips curled as she tapped her heel against the floor, laughter spilling out. Serve me like a beast of burden, Finally, standing by the window, her eyes gleaming with pride and amusement, she agreed, Fine, I'll help you, one last time. After that conversation, the scene shifted to the Central Hospital of Anqing, the inpatient ward. Iha came here to visit someone, but unfortunately for him, he was quickly recognized by fans. The hallway soon became a small commotion. Look, it's Iha. I heard he killed a ton of demon beasts in the last Mystic Realm. Iha, can we add you on QQ? As expected of the martial champion, we all got injured this badly, yet he didn't even get a scratch. I'm your fan. Iha, can I have your autograph? Surrounded by an excited crowd, Iha could only wave his hands helplessly. Sorry, no, thank you. He hadn't expected to be this popular. After finally escaping the fans' enthusiastic pursuit, he made his way to the ward room 6, shared by 2 patients, Suozhou and La Xuan. The moment he entered, instead of offering polite greetings, Iha burst into laughter. On the bed lay Suozhou, or rather, a mummified version of him. His entire body was wrapped in bandages from head to toe, making him look exactly like an ancient corpse. Well, Iha teased, isn't this the most handsome man in Anqing? So even you have your days like this, huh? I came to visit, but seriously, what's with all that stuff you're holding? Gifts from your fans along the way? From the adjacent bed, La Xuan raised a hand in greeting. You're Iha, right? Iha blinked, a bit puzzled. And you are? La Xuan chuckled. It's me, La Xuan, your first opponent in the promotion tournament. You've forgotten me this quickly? Realization dawned on Iha, and a bead of sweat slid down his temple as he frowned awkwardly. Seeing Iha tense up, Lao Shuan grinned, trying to lighten the mood. Don't look at me like that, my leg's still not healed, sure. But you're staring as if I'm about to kick the bucket. He laughed, then added more casually, I can still undergo limb regeneration surgery. And if that doesn't work, I can always switch to the latest prosthetic combat limbs just released by Thunder Falcon Industries. In contrast to his teasing earlier, he had now felt a deep respect for the young man. Lao Shuan, to think that someone so young would lose a leg just to protect Anqing. Lao Shuan truly deserved admiration. Suddenly, a sharp ringtone cut through his thoughts. He fished his phone from his pocket, frowned, and declined the call. Another spam call? These days, the harassment never ends. So annoying. But before he could even put the phone away, a loud, angry voice bellowed from the speaker. Still not answering? Pick up the damn phone already. Iha flinched, startled. It turned out to be the principal. His voice was so thunderous that even holding the phone away didn't help, covering one ear in annoyance. Iha sighed. Iha, did you just block one of the big figures from Huadu? Unblock them this instant. Yes, I got it, old man. I mean, principal. Moments later, a soft but professional female voice came through the line. Hello, student Iha. This is Wang Tao, the admissions officer of the Imperial Capital University. I'm calling to inform you that Huadu University will begin the new term 1 month earlier than scheduled. A special transport train will arrive to pick you up in 3 days. Do you have any additional requests? At the same time, Sojo received a similar call, though from a male voice. Hello, Sojo. This is Teacher Liu from the admissions office of Huadu University. Both of them accepted their assignments and nodded firmly. Only Lao Shuan sat quietly on his bed. Glancing between the two, everyone here was so capable, responding to the organization's summons with confidence. He chuckled bitterly to himself. Got it, Teacher Liu. I'll definitely arrive on time. Thank you. Then, in a half-joking whisper, he muttered, a 3-person ward, and I'm the only one without a fancy invitation. Guess my spot's not on the bed. But under it, his expression suddenly turned serious. Excuse me, I have something urgent to take care of. I'll go ahead first. A few days later, back in the city, near the site of the Swan Lake nuclear explosion, the massive mushroom cloud from that detonation had hurled hundreds of tons of radioactive dust into the upper atmosphere. Now, the skies above Swan Lake and the area spanning dozens of kilometers were blanketed by thick ash clouds, plunging the world below into an endless twilight. Within those clouds, faint streams of blue light flickered. There, Iha had changed, utterly transformed. His body had grown massive, his muscles rippling beneath skin now marked with claw-like ridges. His face was cold, expressionless. He began releasing his energy, power so immense that the clouds themselves trembled, swirling in violent waves around him. In Ihi's eyes, a bright light flickered. His entire personal information interface appeared before him. Monster template, infinite host, Ihi comprehensive constitution, 27. For body template, Berserker Emperor Mala compatibility rate, 38. 9% super titanization fusion rate, 90%. Ihi stood tall and firm amidst the billowing smoke, calmly analyzing the situation around him. During the battle with the blood-eyed black ape, his compatibility with the Berserker Emperor Mala template had increased by another 5%. That was already an impressive number. Moreover, the area was filled with nuclear radiation and residual atomic fission energy. Truly a sacred land for cultivation. Over the past 3 days of training, his compatibility rate had risen by more than 6 points, an extraordinary leap in progress. He stomped lightly on the ground, but suddenly, his figure dissolved into a streak of light that shot across the horizon. Time to go, he said softly. The scene shifted to Anqing Station. Attention passengers, a broadcast echoed. Train G6666 departing from this station to Westhua City will leave in 5 minutes. Passengers who have not checked in, please proceed to the gate immediately. Soaozhou stood in the middle of the station, holding his suitcase. Suddenly, he turned sharply, sensing something. He's here. A flash of light streaked down from the sky. He landed beside him, panting slightly, beads of sweat glistening on his forehead. Good thing I made it in time, he muttered in relief. People nearby gasped as they recognized him. That's Ihi. Oh my god, that pressure just now nearly scared me to death. I thought a high-rank demon beast had appeared again. That aura. Even high-level martial warriors burning their blood wouldn't give off something like that. truly worthy of being the pride of Anqing. So Zhou lowered his head slightly, understanding without words he's gotten stronger again, he thought. He gazed out at the city with quiet nostalgia. Anqing, he was about to leave this place, the city where it had all begun, his first stop since crossing over into this world, his true starting point. When the train finally arrived, he whispered, "Goodbye, Anqing." He smiled brightly, excitement flickering in his eyes. "Let's go." To Huadu, the train sped forward, slicing through the wind, carrying both of them toward the grand city of Huadu. On board, Sojo folded his arms seriously and looked at Ihi. He said, "Could you be honest with me for once?" He leaned back, lowering his voice. "Everyone on this train, they're all top scholars from other provinces, right? Not just that. This carriage itself is made from the most advanced composite structures and materials, capable of withstanding impacts of several thousand tons. Yet even with all that, the train is being guarded by numerous Xuanwu martial warriors, both openly and covertly. I'm sure there are at least 5 of them, maybe even a Grandmaster-level powerhouse among them. After all, this train is carrying the most elite prodigies of the entire Xian nation." He smirked slightly, confident in his own senses. He's right, he thought, there are experts here, but fewer than 5 who could withstand even 3 of my moves. Suddenly, the train shuddered violently. An alarm blared, warning, "Level 1 alert! Level 1 alert! The Huadu Express is under attack by unknown enemies." The train's emergency sirens continued to blare, "Level 1 alert! Level 1 alert! The Huadu Express is under attack by unknown assailants." A voice came through the broadcast system. "Professors and instructors are currently investigating the situation. All students are instructed to evacuate the carriages immediately. Under no circumstances are you to engage the enemy." The passengers were in turmoil. Fear and confusion spread quickly. This can't be real. Who would dare attack the Huadu Express? Could this be some kind of drill? Maybe a test for new students? I doubt it. Xian Nation is at its weakest right now. The National Guardian martial lords are injured and in seclusion. One of the 3 grandmasters, Du Jingming, has gone missing, and after the beast-tide attack on Guanshan and other cities, countless grandmasters and Xuanwu warriors have perished. It's only natural that the other nations and factions once suppressed by Xiagua are rising again. Then what should we do? Stay here or leave the carriage? While everyone else panicked, Yi leaned back in his seat, closing his eyes with a faint sigh, as if none of it concerned him. Sojo frowned. "Yi, what are you even thinking right now?" Yi cracked an eye open lazily. "How annoying. I overtrained these past few days. I was just about to take a nap and recover a bit." Then he stood up. The sound of his boots striking the metal floor echoed through the tense carriage. A faint smirk curved his lips. "Come on," he said calmly. "Let's go see what's happening." Outside, the train thundered along the tracks at full speed. He slid open the door to the next carriage, and immediately froze. A student, drenched in blood, staggered toward him. Yi's expression sharpened. "Hey, classmate! Hang in there, what happened up ahead?" The freshman Chu Jinxian, his face smeared with blood, gasped out in panic. "The enemy has already taken over the first 3 carriages. They're using some kind of special domain. It drags people into an independent space, so none of the battle shockwaves leak outside. Inside that domain, there are terrifying enemies hunting everyone down. Almost all the Xuanwu-level instructors escorting us have fallen. They combined their strength to push me out of the domain, and told me to warn everyone to escape immediately. This isn't a drill." His voice trembled, his breath ragged. The moment his words sank in, everyone went pale with fear, sweat rolled down faces. But a man standing behind he snorted in disbelief. "What proof do you have? If you say it's dangerous up ahead, then show us evidence. Where's the token the teachers supposedly gave you? Where are the other wounded? Why are you the only one who made it out? I've got a friend in the front carriage. His strength could rival the top freshman candidates. Don't tell me you survived but he didn't." "No way," the crowd murmured, doubt rippling through them like a wave. "He's got a point. Yeah, the guy with the lion's mane is right. Move aside, I'm going up front myself." Despite Chu Jinxian's desperate attempt to block them, the man, Yan Jingxiong, shoved past, ignoring all warnings. "Wait, I'm telling the truth. It's really dangerous up there," Chu Jinxian shouted after him, clutching at sleeves as more students followed. "Why won't anyone listen? You'll all die if you go there." Just then, Chu Jinxian's eyes flicked to the young man standing quietly ahead, his gaze sharpened. You You're Yi, aren't you? Yi's eyes narrowed slightly. Surprised by the recognition, the life field around him subtly pulsed. Something about this bloodied student's aura felt different. That's me, Yi replied. How do you know who I am? Chu Jinxian's face softened a little as he struggled to catch his breath. There's a girl named Lu Qingzhu. She showed me your picture, she told me. To tell you, he paused, coughing up a bit of blood, voice trembling as he forced the words out. Whatever happens, don't go to the front. Yi's pupils contracted. Lu Qingzhu. She told you that? A flicker of confusion, and something deeper, unspoken, crossed his cold eyes. Chu Jinxian choked up as he recounted it, tears mixing with blood. She saved me. Yes, she got cut badly protecting me. He sobbed. They wanted to die. I couldn't change that. But I swore I'd fulfill her last wish. To make sure you live. Hearing that, Yi snapped in fury and socked him hard on the head. Don't talk like you're dead already. You're still breathing. Quit the damn curses. Suo Zhou, standing behind, asked sharply. You still want to go up there? Yi rubbed his knuckles, helpless. I promised his family. It's useless arguing. Chu Jinxian planted himself stubbornly in front of Yi, refusing to let him pass. No, I won't let you go, he pleaded. Yi barked back, incredulous. With the way you look, wrapped up like a mummy, how did you even get an acceptance letter from Huadu? Blood boiling, Yi called. Suo Zhou. The other drew his blade, using the threat to push Chu Jinxian aside. Still, Chu Jinxian held his ground, shouting, I'm saving you. How can you be so unreasonable? If you insult Qingzhu like that, she's refined. She wouldn't associate with brutes like you. Chu Jinxian had pushed Yi to the limit. In one motion he had delivered a solid punch to his stomach. Enough of your nonsense, he snapped. Chu Jinxian doubled over, clutching his belly, face ashen. He gasped out in a trembling voice. Damn, you're strong. Not even the same level as me. His expression softened a fraction. Fine, sorry. Keep this blood essence pill. We're in a hurry. The situation was urgent. They sprinted forward. Suo Zhou, don't go. It's dangerous. Someone shouted behind them. But the two were already approaching car No. 3. In front of Yi stood a door swirling with violet energy. It must be the entrance to that independent dimension the freshman had mentioned earlier. To test it, he picked up his suitcase and hurled it through. A probe throw, the case vanished straight into the vortex. Silent and smooth, without any visible reaction, Yi frowned, deep in thought. No response at all. Not even a sound. My life field can't detect any energy inside either. Looks like all those freshmen who went in earlier never came out. Intrigued rather than frightened, his lips curled into a grin. Interesting. Let's just go in directly. With that, Yi and Suo Zhou leapt into the vortex together. The moment he entered, Yi felt something off. He frowned and sighed. Great. What the hell is this place? Before him stretched a twisting corridor, coiling endlessly in every direction. The air was heavy and strange. He looked around. We came in at the same time. So where's Suo Zhou? He shook his head, brushing the thought aside. No time for that. There's light ahead. I'll just move forward first. Rushing through the corridor, he reached its end, only to find himself standing in the middle of a ruined city. Buildings were shattered, streets cracked, and smoke rose from the debris. What kind of damned place is this? He raised his hand, only to realize his strength had vanished. His life field was completely unresponsive. No way. This place is sealed off. He bent his knees and launched upward, his instinct kicking in. The simplest method was still the best. Landing atop a half-collapsed skyscraper, he gathered a massive sphere of radiant light in his hands and roared, "Stop pretending to be ghosts." He hurled the orb high, its glare exploding into blinding white smoke. Explode, now! The explosion thundered through the skies, shaking the entire city. Everyone who witnessed it instinctively looked up. What in the world? That blast was massive. Who could pull off something like that? Must be some top-tier master. What an entrance! Meanwhile, Suo Zhou sprinted down the ruined street, sword in hand, eyes wide as he witnessed the brilliant flare of his detonation. Not far away, Liu Qingzhu sat slumped against a broken pillar. Bloodied and pale, she looked off into the distance, her eyes full of exhaustion and helplessness. I told you not to come, she murmured weakly. High above, standing tall on a rooftop, Iha surveyed the aftermath with pride. Looks like that move didn't just attract my classmates and allies, he said with a smirk. Seems it drew out the enemies, too. A pig-headed monster emerged from the smoke, charging toward him with a guttural roar. Iha cracked his knuckles, grinning. Coming for me already? Fine, let's play. He moved first. One devastating punch sent the monster flying, its head snapping clean off. But to his surprise, the creature's body twitched, then regrew its head in an instant. No way, he muttered, narrowing his eyes. Took my nuclear punch full on and still standing? The monster lunged again, its weapon piercing straight into his abdomen. For a moment, even the beast looked shocked that it had landed a blow. But he only chuckled darkly, the wound closing almost as fast as it appeared. Eh? Surprised, huh? Didn't expect me to heal that quick, did you? Your strength's nothing special. But your weapon, he glanced at the blade protruding from his abdomen. That's something else, it cuts through defenses like they're paper. What are you exactly? Curious, he seized the monster by the jaw. Let's take a closer look, shall we? He pried its mouth open wide, channeling energy into his fist. Here, choke on this. A blast of condensed power surged straight into the creature's gaping maw, detonating inside with a wet, cracking boom. It was no surprise. The monster had fallen right into his trap. He had grabbed the creature by its grotesque head. I'm a decent guy, he said coolly, tightening his grip. If I say you'll fall right here, then that's exactly what'll happen. But as he pulled the head off, something caught his eye. Huh? What's this inside? He reached in and drew out a necklace, a green jade pendant that shimmered faintly in the sunlight. A pendant? So this is part of Huada's trial. Huh, beat a monster, get loot? Just like a game. At that moment, the monster's hot weapon, its enchanted gear, cracked apart and vanished into thin air. Figures, he mused. That masked freak's weapon must have been forged with high-level martial energy. Once the energy fades, it's just junk metal again. He turned the pendant over in his hand, curious. Now, what's this thing for? Don't tell me I've got to hunt down every masked creep out there and rip these pendants out of their fake heads. Before he could think further, a whistling sound sliced through the air. An arrow, aimed straight at his back. Oh great, he muttered. So it's really turning into a survival game now? He had twisted sharply, his aura flaring, snapping the arrow midair with pure force. Another monster leapt from the shadows. Already the next round? He smirked. Fine by me. He surged forward like a green blur. I hate sneak attackers the most. But before he could strike, a volley of arrows rained down, forcing him to halt mid-charge. He barely had time to react before dozens of arrows pierced through his body, each strike echoing with a sharp, painful thud. The monster howled triumphantly, only for Iha to start laughing. Heh? Is that all you've got? You think this can kill me? Too naive. His skin began to glow with a blinding emerald light, muscles bulged, bones stretched and cracked, until in seconds Iha had transformed into a towering green giant, radiating raw, majestic power. The monster looked up in horror as the ground trembled beneath Iha's massive step. Now, it was the prey's turn to stare helplessly. There was no fighting back against that overwhelming strength. The entire building began to shake violently. Half the city collapsed, sending tremors through the ground. People on the other side panicked, voices echoing in confusion. What happened over there? The whole building's gone down. He had clenched his fists, fury blazing in his eyes. I need to see for myself who the hell just tried to turn me into a human kebab. From above, a rabbit-headed monster dropped down, gripping a gleaming spear. A rabbit head. Could it be one of the 12 zodiac beasts? Iha muttered, narrowing his eyes. The creature landed in a crouch, ready to fight. With a burst of speed, it lunged upward, spear aimed straight at Iha. But its skill was laughably poor. Iha swung a kick and sent it flying through the air before it could even react. The monster, however, twisted midair, recovered, and came back down with a lightning-fast high kick that caught Iha off guard. What the? He barked. It knows kung fu. The spear shot forward, its tip mere millimeters from Iha's eye. He barely had time to move, and then, crack! A sudden wall of ice erupted between them, freezing the spear in place. Someone's power, a barrier of frost, had just saved Iha from certain death. After the violent tremor, the entire city kept collapsing, buildings falling like dominoes. The rabbit-headed monster was now trapped inside a cage of ice. It turned out that Sojo had arrived just in time to join the fight. That was close, Iha, he called out, eyes locked on the monster. Leave this rabbit to me. He swung his sword downward in a sharp arc, but the monster leaped high, countering the strike midair with a mocking grin. With a roar, it unleashed a devastating blow that shattered Sojo's entire ice barrier into shards. This wasn't going to be an easy battle. The creature's spear glimmered coldly as it pierced through layer after layer of ice, forcing Suozhou back. But he didn't yield. He gathered his strength and blasted the monster backward with a wave of power. The beast staggered but refused to fall. Instead, it rose again, channeling its energy into a single, deadly strike. It planted its feet, the ground cracking beneath it. Spear raised high then, something stopped it cold. A powerful aura filled the air, a force so overwhelming that even the monster trembled. From the darkness above, a much larger beast descended, grabbing the rabbit-headed one. With a single claw, "Finally caught you, little cutie," it growled. A blinding light flared, boom, and an entire section of the city was obliterated in an instant. A few minutes earlier, inside an abandoned building, voices echoed in the dim light. "What's going on over there? Why is it so quiet?" "That guy who went into that flashy battlefield, he's probably dead by now," another voice scoffed. "Of course he's dead. Those masked freaks, more than 10 of us, surrounded one. And they didn't even flinch. Their weapons can pierce through any defense. People at our level can't handle monsters like that." It was a woman speaking, surrounded by her companions. She sneered, folding her arms. "That guy who launched fireworks into the sky the moment he entered, what arrogance. Probably just some small town student who got into Huada University by luck, a frog at the bottom of the well, thinking he's something special." Her gaze turned distant, her tone growing colder. "Honestly, top students from big cities are on a completely different level. I've heard Yanjing Xiong and Ouyang Zhai from Madu, Lan Yusi from Shindu, and Xinchen from Liuli Island have already begun hunting those masked ones. I have no idea how they're managing it." Her words faded into the rumble of destruction shaking the world outside. A golden screen suddenly appeared before them, displaying rankings and combat data. The woman and her companions leaned in, eyes wide. "So this is the one who caused that explosion," one of them muttered. "That powerful? Then this year's freshman leader must be among them." But the woman quickly shook her head. No. The freshman leader has always been a local from Huadu. Students from other regions of Xiagua can't possibly compete with those Huadu monsters. The difference in martial resources and training since childhood is like heaven and earth." Just as her words faded, a deafening explosion echoed across the ruins. Both of them froze, their faces turning pale. What was that? That blast was insane. Could that have been an electromagnetic cannon? "Don't talk nonsense. There's no way such a thing exists here." At that same moment, Yanjing Xiong and Ouyang Zhai stood atop the wreckage, witnessing the strange phenomenon for the first time. Yan frowned. "Zhai, what do you think?" Ouyang Zhai's tone was calm, detached. "That attack style doesn't match the masked ones. It's most likely the technique of a new freshman." At his feet lay a slain monster, its mask shattered. In his hand, Ouyang Zhai held several emerald-green jade pendants, each one representing a defeated creature. Yanjing Xiong glanced at them and smirked. "Freshman, huh? Aside from the Huadu locals, who else could have that kind of strength? Anyway, we should check that explosion out. We've already collected 4 pendants: rat, dog, monkey, and horse. Lan Yusi from Shindu should at least have the goat pendant by now." Ouyang Zhai nodded slightly. "Xinchen from Liuli Island should have the snake. And there's a freshman named Liu Qingzhu. Rumor has it she took down the bull-headed one and got the ox pendant." He paused, eyes narrowing dangerously. If the masked enemies really follow the pattern of the 12 zodiac beasts, that means only 5 remain: pig, rabbit, rooster, tiger, and dragon. A flicker of cold light passed through his gaze as his voice dropped to a murmur. "And as for the dragon," Ouyang Zhai's expression turned grave as he continued, his tone low and analytical, "that last monster. You know it too, right? The terrifying one whose mere touch means death. You can only run from it, not fight it. It's basically a boss-level entity." He paused, folding his arms thoughtfully. "Whoever designed this trial really understands balance. That thing alone could wipe out most of the freshmen here." His eyes narrowed, as though he already understood the twisted rules of this so-called game. "As for the remaining pendants," he added coldly, "the freshman who unleashed that green energy blast earlier must be holding a few already. Xinchen and Lan Yusi will definitely be drawn there too." Ouyang Zhai's voice sank, calm yet edged with anticipation. "Jing Xiong, this game has already entered the final stage." A dangerous glint flashed in his eyes before darkening again. "If we want to win, there's only one way left: take them by force. Meanwhile, back with Iha." The young man crouched down, panting lightly as he held up a jade pendant in his hand. "Before you got here," he explained to Suozhou, I took down one of those masked freaks, the one with the pig's head. This pendant was inside his mask. If my guess is right, this trial is forcing us to collect all 12 pendants from each of the zodiac beasts. Soajo frowned, resting his sword on his shoulder. So that means we'll have to hunt those masked people ourselves? His gaze turned sharp, distant. Exactly. One of them ambushed me earlier from a rooftop. Must have been another mask. He should still be out there. Running scared, he touched the wound on his arm where the arrow had grazed him, eyes glinting. But he made one mistake. His arrow hit me. I can trace his energy from that shot. Come on, we're going after him. The scene shifted to the ruined city. The two of them arrived at a place still marked by scorch marks and shattered ground. He had knelt down and touched the dirt, his instincts razor sharp. Someone fought here before us. These burn marks still warm. The enemy hasn't gone far. Soajo nodded. They're close. Suddenly, he froze, a sense of danger tightening his grip. In one swift motion, he unsheathed his blade. Ice energy surged outward, forming a thick frozen barrier before them. From behind the frost, a female voice hissed in pain. A figure emerged, clutching her arm. Lan Yusi, TCH. My optical cloaking got detected again, she muttered, glaring at them. The skyscraper structure had cracked and it leaned heavily to one side. A dark figure moved silently forward, a sword flashing coldly as it swept an arc through the air. A hidden blade, intent not good. Shinchin's expression immediately hardened. His voice was hoarse but resolute. Move aside, freshman. Lan Yusi, Gene Tech, Flame Demon combat form. His hand suddenly lunged forward. Spiritual power surged. A red-hot light erupting like fire that seared the surrounding air. Flame brand palm. Shinchin lifted a brow, his gaze still composed. He produced a cigarette with a casual motion. So you've been discovered, Lan Yusi. Your optical cloak is getting tired. Need me to cover for you? He has slipped his hands into his pockets and walked up at an easy pace. You two ambushing people, huh? Lan Yusi stammered in a fluster. Brother, you've got the wrong idea. We just took down a masked chicken beast. The cloak was only to bait the other masked ones out. He flicked his finger lightly against the cigarette tip, and a spark flared to life. He had narrowed his eyes, his gaze darkening with threat. Oh? Then what does this mean? In the next instant, he lunged forward, his hand tightening around her throat, lifting Lan Yusi clean off the ground. Her body trembled, brows furrowed. So even my clone was discovered. Looks like this little brother has some skill, she murmured. Shinchin took a slow drag from his cigarette, his expression indifferent. I was hoping you could at least land a surprise attack, otherwise, this would be far too boring. The cigarette fell to the ground. In the end, I'll have to handle this myself. The moment the words left his lips, his pupils turned pure white, and his cheeks bulged as if gathering immense spiritual energy. In the blink of an eye, Shinchin let out a low roar, spewing forth a cloud of pitch-black mist like poisonous fog. Tearing through the air with howling wind, the two retreated rapidly. Lan Yusi gasped, her hand covering her mouth, her voice soft yet cunning. Oh no, trying to run? She swung her giant fan. Fing Lai. Wind's arrival. The thick, murky smoke surged past the two of them. The hand that was absorbing spiritual energy didn't stop. It's not over yet. Let me show you my torch. The moment those words left his mouth, an intense light burst forth from his palm, tearing through the black mist like dawn breaking the night. Shinchin raised an eyebrow, laughing arrogantly. So what if you've got power? You still can't defeat us. Before he could finish, a voice suddenly echoed through the air. What exactly are you laughing at? He emerged from the dispersing smoke, standing tall, his arm lifted high as spiritual energy erupted around him. Shinchin's eyes widened in disbelief. A single clap wiped away my flame cloud. He muttered under his breath, voice trembling. What kind of power is this? But before he could finish, a fist burst through the veil of smoke, striking straight toward him. Lan Shanchuan. The blow came crashing down like a meteor, smashing directly into Shinchin's face. Blood sprayed through the air as his body was flung backward. At the side, Lan Yusi shivered uncontrollably. She could feel the shadow looming closer from behind. At this stage, we haven't even learned any martial cultivation methods that could help us break through to the wuxia, martial warrior, realm. We're still only Wu-Tu apprentices. Our bodies are sealed by that restrictive barrier. Even the top freshmen of Huada might have higher limits within the apprentice stage. But none of them can truly break through yet. Her breath hitched. But this boy's physical strength is far beyond what a first-year freshman should possess. Suddenly, from beneath Yusi's feet, A surge of icy spiritual energy spread outward, creeping like the chill of winter, freezing her limbs one by one. It's over. She realized too late she'd been too focused on that boy's fiery punch, and completely forgot there was another boy, one as cold as ice. Her eyes darted quickly, catching sight of that tall, silent figure standing there. Even when she and Shinchin joined forces, they still couldn't defeat them. Monsters, they're absolute monsters. Yusi gritted her teeth. Eyes hardened with resolve, she swung her fan. She knew continuing the fight was pointless. Her legs felt heavy, but she forced herself to leap into the air. I have to escape. But just as she rose, a hand shot out, grabbing her ankle. Her face turned pale. No! Her body was yanked down violently, slamming hard into the solid ground. Get down here! He had clenched his fist, eyes cold as frost. Xuan Huangwuji. Just as he was about to strike, Yusi's form suddenly blurred, her body dissolving into dozens of afterimages scattering in all directions. Wishing Luaning, she hissed under her breath. He had grinned wickedly, madness gleaming in his eyes, trying to run. Are you? From the darkness behind him, countless shadowy figures began to emerge, silent and grotesque. Roshin Tu Ma Ma Jing Huaning. The phantoms lunged forward instantly, their hands outstretched, entangling every one of her afterimages. Yusi's voice trembled. What kind of demonic technique is this? His grin widened, his tone low and gleeful. You can't beat me and you can't escape either. Accept your fate. The two jade pendants gave a faint chime. A heavy, resigned voice rang out. I surrender. I surrender. I'll hand over all the pendants to you. Iha raised an eyebrow and replied calmly. This early? Is it over already? Tell me whatever information you have. Lan Yusi sank to her knees, eyes cast down. To win this trial you must collect all 12 pendants. Now we're in the final stage. Even if you don't go steal from others, they'll come steal from you. Ouyang Zhai and Yanjing Xiong from the masked city are freshmen with strength. I'm sure they've already seized quite a few pendants. She lifted her head and spoke, voice edged with meaning. So, want me to lead you to Ouyang Zhai and Yanjing Xiong? I've already lost any hope of winning. Why not stir up trouble? Lead the tiger to devour the wolf. Let them tear each other apart. He had tightened his grip on the pendant in his hand. His gaze darkened. No need for you to worry about that, but I do like your fan. Outside, the ruined skyscraper split and cracked. Ouyang Zhai streaked past through the air like a gust of wind, his voice cool and composed. At this point, Shinchin and Lan Yusi have probably already reached that spot. No matter whoever wins, we'll just take the pendants from them. Whatever they gain, it's only custody for us. Suddenly, Jing Xiong froze, eyes widening in shock. A trach. Look at that body, in the distance. A figure lay motionless, blood pooling. Beneath him in a grisly sight. Jing Xiong's voice trembled with horror. That's Xin Qin. A few minutes earlier, after being struck down by Iha, Xin Qin staggered forward, clutching his head in agony. That guy. He's a real monster. By now, Lan Yusi is probably done for too. It feels like he's marked me. He'll definitely come after me next. Looks like I'll have to team up with those two from the masked city, Ouyang Zhai and Yanjing Xiong. A chill ran down his spine. He could sense killing intent rapidly closing in. He spun around warily. Who's there? From the dim light ahead, Shenlong strode forward, sword raised, his steps deliberate and cold. His crimson eyes glowed faintly. Veins bulging with fury, Xin Qin trembled uncontrollably, stammering. Why you're the dragon. The flickering streetlights sparked erratically, then suddenly flared bright. Blood splattered across the concrete. Shenlong tore the pendant from Xinchin's neck, his expression unreadable, and vanished into the darkness, leaving only silence and the stench of blood behind. Jing Xiong crouched down beside the body, examining it. Why did Xinchin die here? And this wound so sharp, so clean? Ouyang Zhai slipped his hands into his pockets, voice calm and steady. It was Shenlong. That cut was precise, decisive, a killing blow. Whoever did this completely overwhelmed Xinchin in strength. Only the dragon mask, one of the 12 zodiac masks, could have done this. Jing Xiong's expression twisted in confusion as fragments of memory surfaced. But, the dragon mask? Wasn't he supposed to be confined to the underground parking structure? I even led more than 20 men down there to find him. He could still picture it, dozens of figures falling beneath the swift, merciless arc of the dragon's blade. In the end, only the two of them had escaped alive. The crimson blood, the lifeless bodies. Jing Xiong swallowed hard. I couldn't believe it then, that he was actually killing people. Weren't we told this was just a trial? But that blood was far too real. Ouyang Zhai's eyes dimmed for a moment. His body trembling with fear, he frowned. What do we do now? It looks like the pendant on Xinchin is gone too. A calm voice spoke up. Shenlong being able to leave the parking lot probably means our freshmen reached some trigger condition. Perhaps all the fake masks were destroyed first. Only then can the final boss be unshackled and roam free. Just like the zodiac masks that automatically hunt freshmen, Shenlong will now actively hunt anyone holding a zodiac pendant, such as us. His gaze flickered. His tone turned grave. We can't face Shenlong directly, we have to act before him. Seize the pendants from others. Absolutely don't let them fall into his hands. Awaken our bloodlines. Suddenly, a pair of golden eagle-like dragon wings burst from Ouyang Jai's back. He shot forward like the wind, his eyes white and wild. Now we need to send out a signal, lure those who hold pendants here and force a life or death clash. Whatever they win, we'll take it from them. Spiritual power surged from his wings and enveloped the air. Somewhere in the ruined city, a shadow hidden in darkness spoke in a heavy voice. I was supposed to take the car to Huada, but somehow I got pulled into this bizarre ruined sector. Many freshmen have already been killed by the one wearing the dragon mask. Liu Qingzhu's expression tightened. She and one other survivor had found a teacher. He said he could only escort one person out, not her. She couldn't leave in such a dangerous moment. Staring at the photo on her phone, she thought, I must warn that idiot Iha not to get dragged in. She rubbed her head, exhausted. I don't even know if my classmate who escaped met Iha. I'm too weak to search for him now. With his ferocious strength, as long as he doesn't cross the dragon mask, he should be fine. Suddenly a golden light flared across the sky. Qingzhu's eyes widened in shock. She had been spotted. A figure moved out toward the parking lot. She calculated quickly. In her current state she couldn't run. Her aura had been locked down, and they'd surely come to seize her pendant. She didn't care much for the pendant itself, but she had a feeling Iho would need it, so she couldn't face them directly. She would only bait them to that location. Ouyang Jai's eyes turned white with excitement. Liu Qingzhu. Sensing something, he paused. During the college exams I heard the Liu clan once in decline. Now someone awakened a dark blood noble lineage. Because it's the same high-grade beast bloodline. I checked Liu Qingzhu's file. She seems to have the ox pendant. Pleasant surprise, she's heading somewhere. Hovering in the air, he curled his lip. She actually plans to lead me to Shenlong's parking lot? How adorably silly. Shenlong has already left that place with his blade. The underground lot is empty now. He streaked off like a gust of wind, voice low. Jingxiong, stay here and wait. I'll go capture someone first. Inside the crumbling building, a series of explosions echoed, sending thick black smoke billowing through the air. Ouyang Jai hovered in midair, his voice low and hoarse. Liu Qingzhu, you can't escape. Just then, a strange, eerie sound rippled through the darkness. He froze, his pupils turning white. That sound. Out of the pitch-black night, the figure of Shenlong emerged, a dragon. Impossible! He should have gone out to hunt down the pendant holders already. A chilling aura enveloped Ouyang Jai, his expression twisted in shock. Wait, if the dragon's target is anyone carrying zodiac pendants, I'm wearing 4 of them, he'll definitely come here first. He cursed under his breath. Too arrogant. I've walked right into danger myself. Shenlong's eyes gleamed with a sinister light, brimming with malice. Ouyang Jai frowned deeply, his face paling. The enormous wings on his back flared with radiant golden light as he scanned his surroundings. A domain. I didn't think Shenlong could wield such a technique. He gritted his teeth, sweat pouring down his forehead. Once you meet the caster's eyes, you're pulled straight into their domain. The only way out is to kill them. Damn it, to think I'd be pushed this far. In a flash, Shenlong lunged forward. He's coming. Ouyang Jai quickly crossed his golden wings in front of him, blocking the storm of razor-sharp blades that struck like lightning. Shenlong's eyes blazed crimson, and a thunderous roar erupted, a sound that seemed to rise straight from the depths of hell. The shockwave rolled across the area, shaking the ruins. At that moment, Jingxiong appeared, channeling all his spiritual power into his sword as he raised it to block the oncoming force. Iha arched an eyebrow, smoke still curled from his hand. Are you turning up the volume to broadcast to the whole server and taunt them? The thought seemed to drip from his smirk. Behind him, Suozhou tightened his grip on his sword. Iha, leave this one to me. I want to test my strength a bit. Jingxiong surged forward, sword raised, a furious roar tearing out of him. You think you've caught me? How arrogant! The blade flashed. Suozhou's expression hardened with resolve as he invoked his technique Ice Vein. Jingxiong's strike smashed down with terrible force, sending smoke and dust everywhere. His eyes glittered with golden light as he snarled, "Where do you think you're running?" The two clashed, either side yielding. Suo Zhou felt something shift. His face flickered with alarm as he scanned the battlefield. He planted his heels and braced the sword's tip against the oncoming blade. His gaze darkened and he said in a low tone, "Sword intent that wounds the soul. Unity of sword and self." From afar a black-scaled dragon twisted through the air, its scales glinting menacingly as it bore down with overwhelming presence. Behind Jingxiong, the pale, tiger spirit flickered in the mist of spiritual power, a chilling murderous aura. He stood flanked by those two spirit beasts, his momentum rising, killing intent roaring. Iha watched calmly from a distance, expression unreadable, even shaking his head in slight boredom. That look made Jingxiong pause for a fraction. There was the aura of someone named Atui. He seemed to be silently calling for help. A blade from the opposite side lunged in, forcing Jingxiong to stagger back. Stamping his heel hard into the ground, rage flared in his eyes. "If I weren't pressed for time right now," he spat, "I'd have shattered 8 of your bones with this strike." A cold voice cut through the air. "You say that and then try to walk away? Did I ever permit you to leave?" Jingxiong froze, stunned to see Iha bearing down on him. Whatever else, he hadn't expected that. Then, like a falling hammer, a horrifying punch crashed down. Jingxiong's entire body was sent flying like a sandbag, tumbling across the dirt and rubble. He spat out a mouthful of blood, disbelief flashing in his eyes. "Did I just get smacked into the air?" Iha arched a brow, casually admitting it was indeed his doing. Jingxiong ground his teeth, snarling that Iha had ambushed him. The latter simply sighed, shaking his head, "Don't flatter yourself, you're just slow. Damn you, I'll kill you!" Jingxiong roared, his face twisting with fury. 3 minutes later, he was sprawled flat on the ground, face swollen like a steamed bun. He had dusted his hands off nonchalantly. "Don't take it too hard. Lasting 3 minutes against me is impressive enough. That guy Xinchen got sent flying with a single punch." He bent down, picking up the fallen sword-axe hybrid and examined it. "This weapon's heavier than I expected. I'll borrow it for a while. You don't mind, do you?" The blade suddenly gleamed. A trail of spiritual light ran along its edge. "Still," he murmured, "it could use a little more power." A faint smirk tugged at Iha's lips as he infused his own energy into the weapon, fully claiming it as his own. Just then, Suo Zhou approached, holding something that shimmered faintly in his palm. His expression was puzzled. "Iha," he said, "there's no pendant in his spatial ring. But I found this." The jade-green pendant in Suo Zhou's hand pulsed with light, flashing rhythmically, as if sending out some kind of signal. Within the domain, a dark and twisted space filled with lurking dangers. Ouyang Zhai's body was no longer intact. Blood streamed down his torn flesh, his face pale and slick with crimson. His eyes were hollow. Unfocused disbelief clouded his expression. "I never thought it would end like this." He coughed violently, the metallic taste of blood filling his mouth. "I've already used up all the relic nails I brought out from that ancient ruin. If I'd just managed to pierce his heart, I could have sealed both his martial weapon and the energy conduit within him. But I paid for it with my arm, and still missed by just 3 fingers' width." Ouyang Zhai gave a broken laugh, his voice trembling. "I lost the only chance I had to kill Shenlong." His expression dulled, despair spreading across his features. He didn't even bother to dodge as the enemy advanced. All around him were crumbling buildings, withered trees, and twisted creatures crawling through the debris. A blade suddenly thrust through his chest, pinning him against the wall. The metallic clang echoed as he clawed desperately at the cracked surface, blood splattering across the stone. Meanwhile, Liu Qingju's hurried footsteps echoed through the stairwell. Her breathing was shallow, her heart pounding as she muttered under her breath, "Just a little more, just reach the rooftop." Her thoughts raced. "That Shenlong. He's terrifying. The Ox Warrior never even stood a chance. Ouyang Zhai won't last long, and when he's gone, I'll be the next target. If I want to survive, I have to think of a way to get Iha here. He's the only one who can get me out." Reaching the upper floor, she pressed her hand to the wall to steady herself. "This is the tallest building in the area. I'll fire a signal flare toward Iha." Summoning her strength, Liu Qingju began chanting. The air around her darkened as her eyes turned. Jet black Yu Mingchue, Netherwing Crow, bloodline had awakened. Magic circles bloomed one after another across the floor, glowing faintly in the dim light. Her body trembled from the strain. Before long, her knees buckled and she collapsed to the ground, gasping in pain. Please, Iha, notice it. Suddenly, her pupils flared bright with golden light. She stumbled to the balcony, clutching the railing, and peered down. That sound, no, it can't be. Her hands tightened as she leaned over, and there, standing amidst the flickering shadows below, Shenlong stood motionless, sword in hand, his killing aura rising like a storm. Liu Qingzhu froze, her whole body trembling. So fast? He already found me? Panic surged through her veins. She had to send another signal, anything to warn He to escape at once. But before she could move, a blinding flash of light erupted from Shenlong's eyes, filled with overwhelming force and divine wrath. A second later, the balcony exploded in a roar of flames and debris. Liu Qingzhu fell backward, terrified, her heart hammering in her chest as the smoke cleared. Through the swirling dust, Shenlong slowly stepped forward, his presence suffocating, each footstep echoing with power. He raised his sword high, a triumphant grin twisting across his blood-streaked face. Liu Qingzhu's lips quivered, tears welling in her eyes. No, it's too late. Suddenly a thunderous crack split the air, the wall beside her shattered violently. From the crumbling dust, a figure burst through Iha, his eyes sharp as lightning, his body surrounded by a fierce aura. He landed hard, one foot still pressed against the collapsing wall, voice cold as steel. I made a promise to your family, and when I say I'll do something, I keep my word. Liu Qingzhu's eyes widened in shock. Iha, seeing him, Shenlong's expression twisted in rage, his jaw clenched, teeth grinding audibly. Iha's fury ignited, his gaze flashed like thunder splitting the sky. And you, what the hell are you supposed to be? With a powerful swing, he brought his sword down. The impact shook the entire building, the force splitting the structure clean in half as a deafening shockwave rolled outward. Smoke and shards of stone scattered through the air. He had turned toward Liu Qingzhu, worry flickering in his eyes. So Zhou and the new recruit I picked up are hiding in the east alley. Go get out of here. She hesitated. But what about you? He gave a faint grin. Didn't I say I wanted to test this guy for myself? With that, he leapt downward, his blade trailing a streak of light. The already splintered building collapsed in two beneath the force of his descent. Landing hard, he drove his sword into the ground, dust swirling around him. He stood there calm, unshaken, then looked back over his shoulder, a faint, knowing smile tugging at his lips. I knew something about this cursed domain felt off. So this is your little cage, huh, Shenlong? You can only fight while hiding in here? His eyes narrowed as he noticed something glinting on Shenlong's chest, a nail, buried deep in the creature's flesh. That nail, his pupils contracted. Could this be the plan Diemjing Xiong mentioned? The one that could end him for good? Before he could finish the thought, Shenlong roared in fury, his entire body ignited with a surge of violet light, divine energy pulsing like wildfire. Iha smirked, tightening his grip on his sword. Not bad, your speed's impressive. The ground quaked beneath them as the two clashed, steel met steel. Sparks flew like lightning, the shockwaves rippled across the ruins, and amid the storm of dust and power, Iha's voice echoed calm, resolute, and burning with battle spirit. I've been waiting for this. The entire building began to shake violently, the air trembling with overwhelming force. Then, in a flash, a barrage of slashes, each one sharp enough to rend stone, split the structure into three massive sections. A colossal shockwave tore through the surrounding district, reducing everything nearby to rubble. Smoke and debris billowed into the sky, blotting out the sun. At the heart of the destruction, Shenlong and Iha were locked in a fierce duel, each strike bursting with devastating energy. Either yielding an inch, Shenlong roared, baring his fangs and forked tongue, his rage manifesting as waves of divine pressure that cracked the ground beneath him. Across from him, Iha gritted his teeth, muscles tensed, his blade clashing violently against the creatures. The air rang with the screech of steel. Then, one brutal swing from Shenlong's sword sent Iha crashing downward, engulfed by a storm of smoke and shattered stone. From above, all that could be seen was a swirl of violet and blue mist, twisting together like a raging storm. Shenlong narrowed his glowing eyes, scanning the ruins below, when suddenly, a beam of light shot upward, striking him square in the chest. From the depths of the shattered ground, a tornado of energy erupted, spiraling through broken apartments, and piercing the clouds above. Through the dust and wind, Iha emerged, his outfit now transformed, the air around him crackling with power. His gaze sharpened, cold and fearless. Impressive, he murmured. Since I arrived in this world, this is the first time I've met someone who actually feels like a worthy opponent. He frowned slightly, eyes locked on Shenlong. So you won't go down easily, huh? Then, a faint scraping sound, a hand, bloodied and trembling, gripped a broken slab of stone. Shenlong pulled himself up, his once proud face now mangled and scarred, yet his grip on his sword remained unbroken. He smirked. Now that's more like it. It'd be disgraceful if the so-called invincible dragon god went down too easily. Shenlong let out a furious growl and lunged forward, a wave of black miasma swirling behind him. His expression turned serious. He steadied his stance, eyes tracking every movement. Shenlong rose into the air, bringing his sword down in a blur. He reacted instantly, parrying again and again. A flurry of relentless strikes, each one shaking the earth. Too fast. He gritted his teeth, forcing back the monstrous strength. As their blades clashed, Shenlong's mask shattered, and in that moment, both his speed and power spiked dramatically. Shenlong's eyes gleamed. He had realized something. He struck again, but he barely rolled aside, the sword slicing past his shoulder. His breath hitched. My sword broke? He stared at the half-shattered blade in disbelief. Shenlong raised his own sword, aiming straight for Iha, who stood momentarily off balance. With a roar, he swung with all his might, but in that desperate instant, Iha caught the blade with his teeth. Shenlong's eyes widened in disbelief. Iha tilted his head, smirking, eyes gleaming with triumph. Guide you? He clenched his fist, and before Shenlong could react, Iha drove a crushing punch straight into his face, sending the mighty dragon god reeling backward, completely off guard. The punch landed with terrifying force. Shenlong's face split as if cleaved in two, his eyes glazing over. He seized the hand that still gripped the sword. Not finished yet. Guessed, he sneered, then drove another brutal blow home, his gaze razor sharp and utterly determined. Tech number 23, at your service, he muttered, cold and clinical, as the dragon's body took the full brunt of the impact. A savage smile curled his lips. He was almost excited. In his head he replayed the strikes he just delivered, the temples, the throat and heart center, the spleen kidney channels and the lower abdomen, each one a mortal weak point in a living body. On top of that, Shenlong had already been pierced by Ouyang Zhai's bronze nail, which choked his meridians and disrupted the flow of martial energy. Blows laced with killing intent had driven into those key acupoints and conduits, inflicting deep internal damage. Now Shenlong seemed to lose awareness entirely. His limbs went slack and he involuntarily let the sword drop. Iha grabbed his hand to steady him, then raised his other hand behind him, face hard with anger. I knew you wouldn't give up, he said. He produced a huge fan from behind his back. The only chance you ever had to kill me was when I first arrived. When you exploited the information gap and hit me, that only gave you about a 30% chance. Hatred and contempt burned in his expression as he shouted, Now fly for me. A deep crimson whirlwind suddenly erupted, tearing through everything nearby. Shenlong, still unconscious, was engulfed by the raging storm. The Baopian, sacred fan, now infused with killing intent, radiated power far beyond what it ever had in Lan Yuxi's hands. From below, he shot upward, eyes blazing with determination. We're not done yet, Wu Lianzi, he roared, raising his fist high. He channeled every ounce of strength within him. Haning. Explosive fist, first strike. The punch detonated with enough force to shake the very heavens. A shockwave rippled outward, and the sky itself seemed to tremble. Shenlong's body, smoldering and lifeless, began to fall slowly through the smoke. But Iha wasn't finished. He surged forward again, his entire body radiating violent energy. Second strike. His fist crashed into Shenlong's face like a meteor. Lan Shan fist. Hey Shan! Each blow landed with unstoppable momentum, the attacks chaining together until the mighty dragon was smashed across the field, crashing into the shattered earth below. Blood and debris scattered in all directions. From afar, Iha stood observing, breathing heavily. A dragon, huh? I thought you'd be something impressive. Turns out, you're just another insect. But suddenly, Shenlong's eyes snapped open, his hand clenched around his sword as he growled, Kill them all. Seeing this, Iha moved in an instant, with a swift slash. Bidong. His blade cut across Shenlong's face. The dragon's head rolled from his shoulders and thudded onto the ground below. Iha's gaze shifted to the pendant glowing faintly before him. He studied it with a serious expression, So the dragon pendant is finally in my hands. Looks like it's time to end this game. Moments later, at the gathering point, Yanjing Xiong was watching the battlefield below. Tension etched on his face. Many others had already assembled. Suddenly, Liu Qingzhu froze, her lips parting in shock. He shouldn't have gone alone to fight that masked dragon. Suo Zhou lifted his eyes, his expression calm. Aside from He, the rest of us would only get in the way. Hearing that, sorrow clouded Liu Qingzhu's gaze. He's right, she thought bitterly. I'm still injured. I can't even perform martial techniques. I said I'd help He, but I'd only distract him, make him protect me instead. If I were stronger, I wouldn't be such a burden. Just then, He appeared out of nowhere, waving his hand. What are you thinking about now? Liu Qingzhu looked up, startled. He opened his palm, revealing the ox pendant. What, you want me to just snatch them all now? He teased. Flustered, Liu Qingzhu began rummaging through her belongings. Several identical pendants glimmered on the ground, each engraved with a different symbol. Let's line them up, He said, kneeling down, from Z to Hai, the order of the 12 zodiac signs. Let's see what happens. Suo Zhou crossed his arms, looking around. Nothing happened? Could it be that the order of arrangement is wrong? His face was filled with contemplation, his hand resting under his chin. Yanjing Xiong believed that this Shenlong pendant was the most unique one. It didn't seem like a mask worn by a hunted man, but rather a hunter created solely to track down those who possessed such pendants. If that was the case, then under normal circumstances, there shouldn't be any need to attach an additional dragon-shaped pendant. Just then, one of the strings was lifted. Liu Qingzhu turned back, momentarily stunned. Did it work? Yanjing Xiong's face turned anxious. Did we trigger some kind of mechanism? Above them, a golden light appeared in the sky, shining down upon the buildings below. He looked up, eyes wide in disbelief. Look, what's that in the sky? Suddenly, an enormous eye surrounded by thick smoke materialized in the heavens. He followed its gaze, his expression filled with shock. What the hell is that? Then, a shadowy figure plummeted from the sky. It was He himself, his face twisted in confusion and panic. He jolted awake, eyes frozen in alarm. Back in the present moment, the entire train car was filled with noise and chaos. Everyone had just experienced the exact same dream. A calm announcement echoed through the speakers. Students, please remain calm. Just now, you were all drawn into the illusion created by the artifact Mujyinan Demon Eye. It was a dream illusion designed as part of this year's entrance examination for the Imperial Capital Academy. Please stay relaxed. Special announcement. In this year's new student examination, He from Anqing, along with Suo Zhou and Liu Qingzhu's team, has successfully collected all 12 zodiac pendants and achieved first place. Among them, student He's performance was exceptional. A special reward will be granted upon enrollment. As the announcement ended, the students began to chatter noisily. Who's this He? So we all lost to someone from Anqing? Some doubted his identity, while others were eager to befriend him. At that moment, his expression lit up. So it's finally here. It seemed that by fulfilling certain conditions, he could draw a reward once. A system prompt appeared before him. Congratulations, host! You have surpassed all other freshmen in the Imperial Academy's Demon Eye examination. You have earned 1 monster summon draw. He read the message, sweat pouring down his face. Suo Zhou, hand me a wet wipe. I need to clean my hands first. This time, I absolutely can't be unlucky. A spatial gate opened before him, brimming with mystery. Within it awaited his next challenge. Likud, a terrifying creature. The information panel appeared. Monster sample. Level 3 name. Blood-sucking demon. Likud bloodline abilities. Hematic infection. Blood manipulation. And immortal body compatibility. 1% evolution form. Likud, Jiawaludwa. The high-speed train began to move. It was the Huada Express. Inside the carriage, he sat silently, lost in thought. Although the blood-sucking demon wasn't particularly noteworthy, its evolved form possessed a terrifying ability to momentarily halt time itself. That kind of heaven-defying power lingered in his mind. Suddenly, Ouyang Zhai appeared from behind. So, Yuri huh? You actually defeated the dragon god? Yanjing Xiong glanced at Ouyang Zhai, frowning. Zhai, calm down. If you start a fight here, remember, this train doesn't have a medical bay. His eyes sharpened, his tone steady and resolute. Let me correct you. I didn't defeat him. I killed him. Ouyang Zhai froze for a second, quietly repeating to himself, killed? Then, A grin crept across his face. I see. In that case, let me make you an offer. I plan to establish a new student society at Huada Academy, and I want you to join. I'll even make you the president. He leaned closer, his voice lowering with conviction. For years, both the top freshman and the student council president positions have always gone to Huadu students, but with your strength, I believe we might finally break that tradition. Join us. Around them, the other students whispered excitedly, thrilled by what they were witnessing. To them, this felt like a historic moment. Ouyang personally inviting the strongest freshman to join his side, but he didn't seem interested at all. He shook his head calmly. Sorry, I'm not interested in fighting for power or forming cliques. I prefer my freedom, being on my own. The onlookers fell silent, their excitement fading into disappointment. Ouyang, however, remained composed. He slowly pulled out a card and offered it to Iho with a faint smile. That's fine. Here's my card. Just know, we'll always be waiting for the day you decide to work with us. Time passed. Outside, the sun began to sink beneath the horizon, its golden light slowly fading from the world. Sojo stretched lazily and called out to him. We've arrived. Iha blinked, turning toward the window. Through the glass, an entire skyline unfolded before his eyes, massive buildings, towering spires, and endless layers of light. So this is Huadu, he murmured, his gaze filled with awe. It really is a metropolis. The train came to a smooth stop, and students began to file out in neat lines. At the exit, uniformed staff were already waiting. Attention, freshmen of Huadu University. Please proceed this way. The campus is just ahead. The crowd followed eagerly, until they all froze in astonishment. Right before them stood a gigantic aircraft, gleaming under the sunlight. The voice of a flight attendant rang clearly through the speakers. Dear students, please board the aircraft in sequence. Your seat number will correspond to the number printed on your Huada train ticket. Please proceed in order. A murmur rippled through the students, excitement mixing with confusion. Just then, he had decided to tease Liu Qingzhu. Hey, Qingzhu! She nearly jumped out of her skin. Her mother's words flashed across her mind. You and Iha may be engaged in name, but you're not married yet. Don't let him take advantage of you outside. Keep your distance. And protect yourself. Flustered, she snapped. What are you doing? We're in public, you know. Iha sighed, clearly exasperated. Public? I was just asking, why are we getting on a plane now? Liu Qingzhu rolled her eyes, too tired to even argue. How did my mother end up betrothing me to a country boy like you? She muttered. Still, she took a moment to explain, her tone half annoyed, half resigned, because Huadu University isn't on the ground, it's in the sky. It's literally a floating city. Iha's eyes lit up in pure curiosity. A short while later, their aircraft began its descent toward the magnificent aerial campus. Attention passengers. We are now entering the protective barrier surrounding Huadu University. Outside the window, a shimmering electromagnetic shield flickered into view as the plane passed through it. Iha watched closely, analyzing in silence. That magnetic web, it must be designed to keep magical beasts out. And even after crossing the barrier, my life signal detection range hasn't diminished. As expected of Huadu University, when they landed, the ground crew guided the students off the plane. Please keep your student ID cards safe at all times. Iha pulled his card out and examined it. The words were engraved in silver. Huadu University name, Iha gender, male year, first year student. He smiled faintly. A new beginning. The high-speed train was departing, the Huada Express. Inside, so Joe lazily announced, We've arrived. Iha blinked and peered through the glass. The skyline outside was enormous. The buildings towered like mountains. He couldn't help grinning. We've come to the highest city in the world. Everyone, he called out. The students around him only looked down their noses. Groups split off and filed into elevators to head for their dorms. Iha's room was on the 42nd floor, A3, Suojo's on the 45th, B7, so Iha had to get off first. As soon as he set foot inside, he threw the door wide and ransacked the place with eager eyes. The room was a comfortable 100 square meters. Huada's students lived well. He rushed to the desk. The latest model computer, top-tier equipment, everything properly provided. He checked out other rooms too. There was even a massage bathtub. Who could refuse a massage tub? He flopped onto the deluxe bed and kept praising the place aloud, saying it felt like a 5-star hotel. Then a sly idea crept across Iha's face. But duty first, he needed to max out the blood-sucking demon sample. Liquid, jumping up, he figured out how to use the student card, scan the barcode, log into the campus app, and use Huada's cryptocurrency, study points, to shop in the Academy Mall. He converted his entire bank balance of over 30 million Xiaogui yuan into study points. A system notice popped up. Huada had credited his account. 322,043 study points. Iho went pale. 10,000 Xiaogui yuan only converts to 1 study point. The price was ridiculous. Still, the Academy Mall's goods were real quality and some items weren't sold off campus. He bought every relevant Mahatch, spirit stone, he could find. That should be enough to fully push the monster sample. After all, his previous investment in a morph of a supremely large beast had raised compatibility to over 90% with less than 10 million spent. He decided to buy. Within seconds the package arrived. A polite notification pinged. Student Iha, thank you for your purchase. Wishing you smooth cultivation. Please leave a 5-star review. He smiled and opened the box, popping a stone into his mouth at once. After that, his body began to change. His nails lengthened at an astonishing rate. Eating so many at once overwhelmed the body a little, but the effects were clear. He checked himself in the mirror and the system announced, monster sample, blood-sucking demon liquid, compatibility, 100%, host, Iha, composite constitution, 29. Iha lifted his lip to inspect a fawn, even his canine had sharpened. A groove of dried blood appeared at the corner of his mouth. If he bit into an enemy, drinking their blood might be easier than sipping milk tea. He extended his hand. The nails had turned into sharp claws. An audacious idea formed in his mind. He was ready to try something bold. Without hesitation, he plunged his clawed hand deep into his own throat. In the bathroom, Iha stood hunched over the sink, his hands braced against the counter, utterly drained. Beneath his chin was a deep horizontal gash. Blood poured down, soaking his collar and dripping steadily to the floor. But then, astonishingly, the wound began to close. The bleeding stopped. Within moments, the skin sealed itself as if nothing had happened. Iha straightened and calmly assessed what had just occurred. The regeneration was faster than before. The blood-sucking demon's healing ability was certainly impressive, though still secondary compared to what truly mattered. His new power, the Jia Waluida. Iha stepped slowly into another room and couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. No wonder this world revered martial arts. Even the university dormitories came equipped with their own training chambers. He came to a stop in the center, then focused his breath. A vivid red aura flared from his body, wrapping around him like living fire. His eyes suddenly gleamed. He exhaled a long, steady breath. Before him, Liquid appeared. Iha's gaze grew sharp, utterly serious. Not a hint of fear in his expression. Come on, he said evenly. Let's trade a punch. Liquid let out a thunderous roar. His dark crimson muscles surged with raw power, his body exploding with energy. A white cloak materialized, draping over his entire form. This was Liquid's true spirit, his original soul form. He immediately took the upper hand, hurling a crushing punch forward. Witnessing the sheer force of that blow, Iha's eyes widened in surprise, then he raised his arm to block the incoming strike. Liquid's punch was devastating. Its sheer force completely overwhelmed Iha. The bones in Iha's hand shattered under the impact, and the blow sent him flying straight into the nearby wall. The entire room trembled with the collision. He groaned, then pushed himself up, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Powerful, he muttered. Next, let's test the time-stopping ability. A faint, misty green aura began to emanate from his body. The air grew heavy, space itself seemed to freeze. The flow of time halted in an instant. Jia Waluodo, Iha whispered under his breath, counting softly. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Cracks began to ripple through the frozen space, as if reality itself was straining to hold together. 4 seconds, 5 seconds. The fractures widened rapidly. Iha's whole body trembled, sweat and blood running down his face. His breathing grew ragged as he analyzed through gritted teeth. 5 seconds, that's the limit? No, I have to push further. His eyes went bloodshot, but he refused to stop. 5.1 seconds, 5.2, 5.3, 5.4. Liquid's spirit form remained completely motionless within the frozen world. Until 5.5 seconds, Liquid's original soul suddenly shattered, scattering into countless fragments before fading away. Iha exhaled slowly, his expression calm but resolute. As expected, 5 seconds was the original limit, but not my limit. The next morning, Iha and Sojo went out for a walk together. Iha raised a hand to his forehead, squinting slightly. The sunlight felt uncomfortably bright. Sojo frowned, puzzled, strange. I don't find it that dazzling. In that instant, Iha understood ever. Since he had fused with the blood-sucking demon sample, sunlight had become irritating to him. Not deadly, like for a true vampire, but still unpleasant. Then Suojo asked curiously, Hey, have you read the new academic reform notice from Huadi University this year? Iha looked a bit guilty, replying curtly, Not yet, I was fighting Jiawaluodo all night, didn't really pay attention to other things. Suojo had to explain, this year, Huadi University has switched to a mentor-based system, he said basically. Each academic year, every student will be assigned to one main instructor. During that period, you can also apprentice under secondary teachers if you want to learn more. Iha raised a hand to block the sunlight, glancing sideways at Suojo. So, we have to go and choose a mentor, right? Suojo lifted his phone and waved it a little. Not we, just me. You don't need to. Iha blinked, confused. What do you mean? Suojo handed his phone to him. Here, check last night's post on the freshman forum. The school announced that you've already collected all 12 zodiac pendants. That means you have the privilege to choose your supervising instructor directly. The screen displayed an image of a large building, the sports hall in Area A. Inside, a crowd of students was already gathered. It seemed that they were entering the rooms in groups of 3 to undergo an evaluation. When the process finished, the instructors would turn on a light to indicate their chosen students. After a while, Iha stepped out of the building. He waved to Suojo and said casually, You go ahead first, I'll take a walk somewhere else. Since I can pick my instructor anytime, there's no rush. He turned away, sighing with boredom. Choosing an instructor is such a drag, he muttered. But just then, something caught his attention. A faint trail of reddish smoke drifted past him. His senses sharpened instantly. That smell, blood, without hesitation. He sprinted toward the direction it came from. The scent carried with it a chilling aura, a mix of murderous intent and dark sin, strong enough to stir the latent bloodlust within him. I have to find the source, he breathed, his pulse quickening, as he turned the corner. His eyes widened in shock, sweat trickled down his forehead. What he saw left him momentarily speechless. It was a girl, Gonka, and at that very moment she was preparing to feast on something. On the pedestrian street of the floating city, the surroundings were eerily quiet. He had nearly jumped out of his skin. It felt like seeing a ghost in broad daylight. That cute little girl, is she really the source of that sinister aura? No, that had to be a mistake. Gonka's sharp senses caught his hesitation immediately. Her crimson eyes flicked toward him. Probing, you brat, she said casually, you've started cultivating the imprisoned body technique, haven't you? Iha blinked, startled. How do you know? He asked aloud, though inside his mind grew heavier with unease. She's clearly just a kid. Why is she talking like some old master? And calling me a brat on top of that? Munching on a roasted sweet potato, Gonka replied nonchalantly. Because I'm the one who helped Little Tiger complete that martial art. At once, Iha's mind flashed to Liu Qinghu. His expression stiffened. Little Tiger? Don't tell me you mean. Hands on her hips, she puffed out her chest proudly. Liu Qinghu, of course, he was my disciple. About 90 years ago. Iha froze, utterly speechless. You're kidding me, right? It was true that martial artists could surpass the human lifespan. Even at 80 or 90, grandmasters could still appear youthful and vigorous. But this white-haired lowly in front of him, with her innocent, or rather clueless, expression, if she wasn't an Oscar-level actress, there was no way she could pull this off. Iha eyed her warily, his mind racing. For martial artists who practice special body arts, shrinking their skeletal structure to resemble a child isn't impossible. But this girl, Gonka met his gaze with sharp, gleaming eyes and asked flatly, What's wrong? You don't believe me? Iha suddenly acted like a madman, teasing, Believe you? I'd sooner believe I'm Qin Shi Huang himself. The words had barely left his mouth before a vision flashed before his eyes. His own execution. In an instant, his head was severed cleanly from his body. Rolling onto the ground, Gonka strolled over with a cold, cruel expression, staring down at Iha's head. Half dry, half dripping wet. Then, just as abruptly, the images vanished. Iha's face turned pale as he tried to piece together what just happened. An illusion. The murderous intent was so pure, so concentrated, it had actually forced him into hallucinating his own beheading. For a moment, his heart nearly stopped. Then, out of nowhere, Gonka popped a lollipop into her mouth and grinned. Here, she said playfully, a strawberry-flavored candy, my favorite, you can have one too. Her whole demeanor changed in an instant. With a pouty, childish tone, she said softly, sorry, little brat. Guess I went a bit overboard. Don't go tattling on me to the school, okay? I'm only allowed outside for 1 or 2 hours a week. It's really pitiful. Still tasting the sweetness of the candy, Iha narrowed his eyes and asked cautiously, who exactly are you? Gonka beamed with a carefree smile. My name's Gonka. I'm an incredibly powerful grandmaster. Oh, and by the way, the principal of Huadi University. That nerd who teaches poetry? When he was little, I made him cry. The moment she said that, Iha froze, then, with trembling limbs, dropped to his knees so fast the tiles cracked beneath him. Gonka blinked, startled. After a long moment of dramatic silence, Iha bowed deeply, his voice full of false reverence. Wandering half my life, never have I met my true master. I humbly beg to become your disciple. Lady Gonka, please grant me this honor. He wasn't entirely joking. Gonka, the legendary master who had completed the Xuanhuang Wuji, known as the Grand Master of Slaughter, might just be the perfect teacher to help him break through his limits. Gonka could only sigh helplessly, forcing a smile at the overly theatrical boy kneeling before her. Meanwhile, in another place, inside the university gymnasium, at a long, polished table sat Shi Jingwen and 4 other instructors. Their expressions were solemn, prepared for the selection of new students. No one had expected that the deans of the 5 great academies of Huadi University themselves would be serving as the mentors for this year's freshmen. The students were drenched in cold sweat, whispering and murmuring anxiously among themselves. If one of the deans chooses you as their disciple, your entire life will be set. Someone exclaimed, are you kidding? Those are the 5 grand deans. There's no way they're here for anyone else but Iha. None of the new students realized that the entire Zodiac trial competition was being broadcast live, and the audience was none other than all the professors of Huada. From the very first broadcast announcement on the train, the faculty had already begun monitoring how each student responded to sudden crises, using data that captured every facial expression in real time. They scored the students' adaptability and composure. Those who thought this was just an ordinary trial and recklessly rushed into Anqing's Zodiac district without any preparation were all given low marks. Once each student entered the Zodiac city, every fight with a masked Zodiac opponent, their combat IQ, battle sense, and leadership ability, all became critical grading factors. Then came the scenes of them frantically taking on missions just to earn points. Even if a freshman failed to slay a masked Zodiac warrior, as long as they performed exceptionally well in one of those aspects, they could still receive a high score. But Iha was different. He was the only freshman who received the highest evaluation from start to finish. Still, that alone wasn't enough to alarm all 5 deans. What truly stunned them was that Iha had slain the Divine Dragon boss, an entity not included among the trial's target enemies. One of the professors mentioned this in awe, and the nearby female dean immediately caught it. Perhaps even Iha himself didn't realize that the divine dragon he killed represented a legendary being, a combat model trained by Xiaogua's supercomputer Nuwa, based on the data left by Fu Hongxing, a nation-suppressing martial saint. When he first enrolled at Huada, even the supercomputer couldn't fully replicate the gravitational might of the twin gods within the simulation, yet Fu Hongxing's data was still so terrifyingly powerful that no one in the century-long history of Huada, or even the world, had managed to surpass his record. His ability to slay the divine being simulation, even if it didn't possess the full power of its original, was already more than enough to prove his peerless talent. As long as he didn't cause trouble along his path of growth, he was certain to become a master of his generation, perhaps even ascend straight to the level of a Grand Master. What we must do now, one dean said gravely, is restrain our excitement and wait patiently for Iha to choose his master. Just then, a young staff member rushed in, out of breath. Something's wrong, Dean, he shouted. The words that followed left all 5 deans frozen in disbelief. What did you say? Iha is apprenticing under Gonka? The room fell silent. Gonka, once a professor at Dai University, now a special staff member, was notorious among the upper ranks. Back on the pathway where Iha stood, Gonka struggled as he hugged her tightly. You want to take me as your master? She said, pushing against him. Iha endured the pain of her resistance and answered firmly, yes, master, I've made up my mind. he thought to himself bitterly. This lowly-looking girl must be over 100 years old, otherwise, kneeling before a childlike girl in broad daylight would surely earn him at least 3 years in prison. Pouting her lips, Gonka teased him. But you know, I was dismissed from Dida. I'm not a teacher anymore. Iha quickly offered a bold promise. Didn't you say you're only allowed out for 1 or 2 hours a week? If you accept me as your disciple, within 2 years I'll find a way to grant you your freedom. Her eyes instantly lit up like stars. Really? Then I accept. Iha grinned wickedly. He'd done it. He'd successfully lured her in. But just as the moment settled, a commanding voice echoed from behind. Hold it right there. The 5 deans approached, each exuding their own intimidating aura. Gonka groaned in exasperation. Ugh, here come the busybodies again. The tallest of them stepped forward diplomatically. Senior Gonka, wasn't it agreed that during your limited time outside, you were not to interact with students? And besides, in your current mental state, teaching is not advisable. The black-haired elder beside him added hastily. That's right, Senior Gonka. Please, return home immediately. Gonka repeated the words under her breath, then turned her head toward Iha. Return home? Fine then. She looked straight at him and asked softly, What's your name? Iha bowed respectfully. Master, my name is Iha. And so the two, one small, one tall, began to walk away together. Gonka gave her final command, her voice light yet firm. Good, Iha, come home with me. In the early morning, at the Huada Research Institute, Gonka skipped happily ahead, while Iha followed behind, striding carefully and taking in his surroundings. After a few turns through the quiet corridors, she casually stepped into an elevator. Inside, Iha finally broke the silence. Teacher, do you really live in such a remote place? Gonka began explaining in detail, her tone oddly cheerful. That's right, decades ago, I had a bit of a condition. I used to accidentally hurt people rather often, so Huada arranged for me to stay beneath this research facility. These years, though, I've learned to control myself. Finally, I got permission to go out for some fresh air. Iha immediately caught on. So, am I your first student in all those decades? She tilted her head in surprise, eyes wide and innocent. You've got quite the strange way of thinking, aren't you? Afraid of me? Her words made Iha's imagination run wild. Sweat began to bead on his forehead. Afraid that you might chop me up or something? The elevator's indicator panel flickered with bizarre numbers as they descended deeper underground. When the doors opened, Iha frowned, glancing down the narrow corridor. This research institute is so big, why make the hallway so cramped? Because, Gonka replied casually, I'm the only one who can walk through it. A chill ran down his spine at her tone. Calm, natural, and entirely serious. Then something else caught his eye. A huge display mounted above a steel door. Hey, what's that big number on the door? Is it a countdown? The moment he said that, Gonka froze, her expression twisted into panic. Oh no, we're out of time. Hurry, run. Iha stood there, stunned. Wait, teacher, that countdown thing, what is it? She shouted as they bolted down the corridor together. Every time I go outside, that timer starts counting down. If I don't return before it hits 0, an alarm goes off in the headmaster's office, and then the entire university starts a manhunt for me. They sprinted desperately, and at the very last second, the timer struck 0 just as they crossed the threshold. The iron door behind them slammed shut with a deafening clang, followed by the mechanical sound of multiple security locks engaging. Clack, clack, clack. Iha exhaled heavily. That was close, too close. He took a moment to sense the air, his brows furrowing. This place feels strange. There's a magnetic field here. My martial energy can't gather properly outside my body. In other words, if I use martial techniques here, their power will drop drastically. Back in Gonka's quarters, she finally relaxed her shoulders with a long sigh. Of course, she said, half laughing, half bitter, this place is actually my detention cell. She gestured around with a dramatic wave of her hand. To keep me from going out, that brat Shurjing wouldn't even build me a 3-story house. Gonka led Iha deeper into the living room. The moment she stepped in, she casually tossed her coat onto a pile of scattered food wrappers and empty drink cans. A battlefield of snacks and clutter. Then she flopped lazily onto the sofa. Everything's here. Entertainment, training gear, food. Pretty convenient, right? Of course, she added with a smirk. They also installed a high-power magnetic field generator to suppress a martial artist's energy. Just in case I get too bored and decide to break out. He drew a long breath. trying to digest her words. She calls it a prison, he thought, glancing around the spacious, fully furnished room. But this looks more like a luxury apartment. Everything's perfectly equipped. It feels like they're pampering teacher Gong Ka instead of confining her. Meanwhile, back at Huadi University, in the administration wing, every report and surveillance feed had already been compiled and sent straight to Shi Jingwen, the university's headmaster. Bad news, headmaster, a staff member said nervously. He has already taken Gong Ka as his teacher. But the old man remained perfectly calm. There's no need to worry about him, Shi Jingwen replied evenly. Remember the current reform objective of Huada. We are not here to cultivate another crowd of average elites. What we need is a true pinnacle class powerhouse, someone who can bear the weight of Xiagua, even the fate of all humankind. He leaned back in his chair, eyes deep and sharp. When a genius is given enough resources, the best thing we can do is let them grow freely. Let he study under Gong Ka for now. He paused for a moment, then added, the freshman summer training camp will end soon. When that time comes, let he that whetstone test the edge of our newly forged blades. The assistant nodded solemnly. Understood, Headmaster Shi. Then, the old headmaster turned his gaze toward the computer screen. Headmaster Shi, a staff member reported, freshman Iha has followed Gong Ka into the confinement quarters. Everything appears stable for now, however. According to big data projections, given Gong Ka's special grade combat rating, there remains a 5% probability of her losing control during extended cohabitation. The survival probability of student Iha, before reinforcements from the imperial capital could arrive, is only 3%, and even if rescued, there's a 95.3% chance he won't survive the aftermath. The old man rose slowly from his chair and walked toward the transparent observation glass. His tone was calm, but heavy with implication. The so-called special-grade combatants. There are only two kinds. First, those who are immensely powerful martial artists but currently serving deferred death sentences. Second, those so strong they can no longer control their own power. Normally, the nation restricts their freedom. But when Xiagua faces true catastrophe, they are deployed as the guardians of the nation, sent to the front lines. He clasped his hands behind his back. To stand before such a being, I believe student Iha must already be mentally prepared. If one cannot even face the possibility of being killed, how could they ever advance on the path of slaughter? His eyes darkened. The time left for Xiagua grows short. The fools of the Northern White Federation, the lunatics of the Heavens Descent theocracy, and the zealots of that mystic ruined civilization are all stirring once again. Then, softer, almost a prayer, young generation, grow up quickly. Meanwhile, in Gong Ka's domain, she led Iha into a sealed area on the third level of her confinement zone, her training chamber. It's been decades since I last taught anyone, she said, stretching lightly. Let's have a spar first, and see what you've got. Iha blinked. Teacher, are you going to suppress your cultivation to the martial disciple realm before fighting me? Gong Ka waved dismissively as she strode forward. Oh, right, she muttered. Almost forgot about that. Cracking his knuckles and stretching his neck, Iha took his stance. When he turned, she was already loosening her shoulders, rolling her wrists. Teacher Gong Ka, he said seriously, I'm ready. Inwardly, though, his thoughts trembled. Please, don't let this turn into another guillotine scene. Without warning, Gong Ka dashed forward like lightning. The moment her hand neared his throat, panic surged through him. Instinctively, he countered, aiming straight for her vitals. Didn't you say this was just a test? He shouted. In his eyes, the reflection of Gong Ka's expression was like that of a reaper, sharp, merciless. He had already simulated 5 possible evasion trajectories in his mind, but every single motion was anticipated and cut off. He had no choice but to face her head-on. Gathering every ounce of strength, Iha unleashed his ultimate burst, Core Radiance Combat Sphere, Heguang Zhanqiu, his fists clenched, calloused and tense, ready to strike. But Gong Ka only smirked. Oh? Relying on your awakened bloodline to accelerate your perception, trying to defend and counterattack at once? In the blink of an eye, she moved behind him, faster than thought. Her hands twisted both his arms back in a fluid, brutal motion. Too bad, kid, she whispered near his ear. I'm still faster. Pain lanced through his shoulders, sharp, bone deep, as he howled in agony. After drenching his body in blood, Gong Ka leapt backward, putting some distance between them. His entire body was soaked and trembling, but he still managed to lift his head and sneer. So, you really don't hold back at all, Do you, teacher? You even beat my awakened bloodline back to its original state. She didn't look the slightest bit guilty. Instead, excitement flashed in her eyes as she licked a smear of blood from her face. It's been a long time since I've tasted fresh blood. Iha gave a cold laugh, his tone polite yet defiant. Master, when it comes to physical combat, I admit I'm no match for you. But next, I'll be using a few forbidden techniques. Please give me your guidance. At once, a different kind of energy burst out from within him, the elemental personification. His eyes gleamed sharply like blades as he muttered to himself with satisfaction. Good thing I fully charged the prototype super personified monster last night. Gonka's eyes widened slightly in surprise, her tone mixed with admiration and thrill. Such a powerful technique. Is this really something a mere martial novice can unleash? Seems I've taken in quite the terrifying little monster as a student. Her excitement only grew. She steadied her stance, readying a secret technique. In that case, she said with a smirk, this teacher of yours should also show a little skill. With that, Gonka slashed the ground, sending a torrent of cutting energy surging forward, heaven's annihilating blade. Both forces were on the verge of colliding in a fiery explosion. On his side, the gathered power was reaching its peak, trembling violently. Then, from within the smoke, a massive, towering figure emerged, the elemental personification, divided form, realm of personification. Gonka's pupils dilated, contracting sharply in shock. Without hesitation, he funneled all his might into a single blow, slamming his colossal fist toward her. In response, Gonka raised one hand, then inhaled deeply through her mouth, drawing in the surrounding energy, and unleashed a devastating strike with a single arm. In an instant, the steel components he had created began to crack and splinter, on the verge of falling apart completely. Drawing upon the outer armor of Emperor Mala, he forged a flesh-bound personified armor, a living carapace whose defensive power was dozens of times greater than that of the colossal super-personified form. Inside the armor, Iha gritted his teeth, refusing to yield. Was he really going to be torn apart this easily by her? Tiny sparks of light flickered in his eyes, reflections of his stubborn will. Just then, Gonka pounced, landing precisely where he was hidden, her voice sly and mocking. Iha, little brat, are you hiding inside the armor's mouth? Her uncanny perception made him shiver uncontrollably. Impossible. I already shut down every sign of life in my body. How could she still sense me? Gonka continued to gather energy for another strike, shouting, Get out here, right now! Luckily, before her blow could land, he has swiftly constructed a new defensive mode, divided form, meteor personification, sensory override. Gonka was forced to retreat, using her arm to block and absorb the backlash. From above, Iha couldn't help but taunt her with a triumphant grin. Teacher, those slashes of yours are impressive indeed, but can they break through this? Of course, she wouldn't be melted by the Earth core energy that easily, but the real question was how she planned to withstand what was coming next. Suddenly, the scenery warped, the illusion returned once more, chains dropped from the void, clanging as they wrapped around Iha's body. He looked up in horror toward the object suspended on the rack above, the guillotine again. Just as before, the merciless blade began its descent, though terrified. Iha roared defiantly, unlocking another surge of power. Solution protocol. Multiple gate release. At once, his body morphed into a distorted, mutated form. The falling blade halted midair, frozen as if time itself had stopped. So this is it. Iha thought grimly. You've driven me into your killing intent domain again, haven't you, teacher? He realized then, this wasn't a real, physical space at all, but a mental illusion woven entirely from killing intent. To break free from it, there was only one way. He had to fight back not with brute force, but with the strength of his spirit. As the thought formed in his mind, countless gigantic fists materialized around Iha. He directed them forward, each punch hammering straight at the descending guillotine. In an instant, the massive blade shattered like glass, shards scattering and dissolving into nothingness. Breaking free from the illusion, Iha opened his eyes weakly, exhaustion weighing on his body. Across from him, Gonka leisurely sucked on a piece of candy. Noticing him stir, she spoke in a casual tone. So you're awake, huh? That turtle shell beside you was tougher than I thought. Iha rubbed his forehead and struggled to sit up. Observing the scene around him, he silently pieced the situation together. Looks like she violently dragged me out from inside the personified armor's mouth, and the crystallized defensive shell I condensed to protect my real body, completely shattered under her brute strength. But that kind of raw power isn't something a mere martial disciple could possibly wield. A spark of indignation flared in him. He glared at her and muttered resentfully, "Teacher, you cheated, didn't you?" Gonka tilted her head back, gazing dramatically toward the ceiling, and replied with mock righteousness, "What do you mean, cheated? I defeated you fair and square. Where exactly did I cheat?" Iha raised an eyebrow. "Really?" She stood silent for a moment, then mumbled in an almost guilty tone, "Well, maybe I did use a little too much strength. You know how it is, your teacher's just too strong. It's hard to perfectly control my power in 1 or 2 strikes." Iha let out a long sigh, utterly speechless. That reaction, in turn, made Gonka fidget uncomfortably. Then, just as quickly, she flipped her attitude like turning a page, her face melting into exaggerated distress as she clung to him almost tearfully. "Hey, don't be mad, okay? I swear I won't cheat next time. Please don't leave me, alright? It's been decades since I've had anyone to spar or play with." In that spacious room filled with all kinds of modern equipment, Iha waved his hands helplessly. "Hey, don't cry, alright?" Gonka was sitting on the floor, bawling like a child. With teary eyes, she looked up at him. "You're not leaving, are you?" Iha's expression softened. A grin spread across his face as he answered cheerfully, "After all the trouble I went through to catch you as my teacher, why would I leave?" Instantly, Gonka sprang to her feet, hands on her hips, trying to sound mature. I wasn't crying just now, got it?" Iha's gaze went blank. He didn't even bother to argue. A moment later, the two of them walked over to a vending machine. Gonka opened the panel, took out a drink, and said casually, "Alright, I've pretty much figured out your current strength. You're still far weaker than I was back in the day, but compared to others your age, you're quite talented. We can start training now. So, what do you want to learn first?" Iha's expression turned serious as he recalled their earlier fight. "I want to learn about advancing martial arts, and also how you were able to slice through lightning and pierce straight through my personified arm form." She twisted open the can. That move? The tram kitch? That's not an easy one to teach. You just have to keep cutting things. After a while, you'll get the feel for it." But then, her tone shifted, her eyes sharpened, suddenly deadly serious. "Every object, whether it's a human body, a demon beast, or even an inanimate material, has a perfect cutting line. Along that line lies the ideal strike, the path of least resistance. You could call it the line of execution." His eyes widened. "The line of execution. So Master isn't like those dragon-type martial gods. You're actually a specialist in killing techniques, huh?" He remembered her fight earlier. If the attacks of the divine dragon sought pure power, overwhelming dominance, and sharp force, then Gonka's strikes resembled a butcher dissecting an ox. Calm, methodical, and ruthlessly precise. They both sat down on a bench. She sipped from her drink, gaze turning toward him. "Learning this will be troublesome. I'd suggest you first break through to the martial warrior stage. If your martial cultivation doesn't advance, then you won't even meet the requirements to learn most of my techniques." Finishing her drink, she closed her eyes and asked lazily, "Do you even know the difference between a martial warrior and a martial disciple?" Iha blinked, genuinely curious. "What is the difference?" She began to explain, her tone calm but her words cutting deep into theory. "It's not about physical advancement, but about the mind," Gonka said. "The difference between a martial disciple and a martial warrior lies in one crucial ability: inner observation. When a martial artist attains inner observation, they move from macro-level martial cultivation to a micro-level one. Through inner observation, a warrior can actually see their own meridians, acupoints, and even their internal organs. Using martial energy, they can reinforce and expand the limits of their own body. In short, the spirit becomes strong first, and only then does the body follow." Iha's eyes brightened as he listened. His admiration was plain to see. He hadn't expected his teacher, Gonka, to have such a clear and profound grasp of martial theory, truly worthy of being a former professor of the Imperial Academy. Even if she'd gone a bit off the rails over the years, her foundational knowledge hadn't faded one bit. When she mentioned the role of spiritual strength, Iha couldn't help but think back to his own evolution, his fusion with the blood-sucking fiend prototype, and the awakening of the power of Gaiwaluda. Gonka turned toward him, noting his expression. "Your spiritual index must have skyrocketed after that fusion," she said. "That'll be a great advantage once you enter the martial warrior stage." He had tilted his head. "So, is there a difference in the cultivation methods used to break through to the martial warrior stage?" Her face turned serious. "Yes, cultivation manuals and martial arts techniques used for breakthrough are divided into 4 tiers. Heavenly Gang, Thien Quang, Earth Fiend, Dia Sat, Profound Yellow, Huin Hong, and Gradeless, Vo Pham." She paused, then continued thoughtfully, Think of it like this. Ordinary martial disciples from most universities or martial schools can only access grade-less breakthrough methods when trying to ascend to martial warrior. These methods are quick to learn, with almost no requirements. As long as one's blood energy and martial power are sufficient, they can break through. That's why more than 80% of martial artists in society use grade-less manuals for standard breakthroughs. Gonka crossed her arms and leaned back slightly. But students of Huadai University, our institution, they start at least with profound yellow grade breakthrough manuals. He rested his chin on his hand, brows furrowing. Then, what about the other two levels, Heavenly Gang and Earth Fiend? Her gaze sharpened. Techniques of the Heavenly Gang level are almost all ancient, original scrolls excavated from lost relic realms. Worldwide, there might not even be 10 intact versions in total. Even Imperial University, the Imperial Academy, only has one copy, and with your current qualifications and clearance level, you wouldn't be allowed anywhere near it. Then Gonka lowered her face slightly, only to suddenly lift her head again, a mischievous smile spreading across her lips. But she said, eyes glinting with delight, you can learn a breakthrough technique of the Earth Fiend level? Gonka's crimson eyes flicked toward Iha, a strange gleam glinting within. There's a scripture, she said softly, almost as if whispering to herself, the Killing Heart Bodhi Sutra, Heart Sutra, a breakthrough technique at the Earth Fiend level, the one I possess. Her lips curved slightly. In fact, the flesh imprisonment technique used to create Little Tiger's demonic body was inspired by this very sutra of mine. Hearing that, Iha's eyes widened in excitement. His voice trembled slightly. Teacher, I want to learn it. Gonka took a slow sip from her can, then casually tossed it into the trash. Then let's begin now, she said with a playful smirk. Focus, and feel carefully the killing intent realm I'm about to manifest for you. A drop of sweat rolled down Iha's cheek. His face froze in disbelief. No way, again. Before he could protest further, the world around him twisted, colors drained, air thickened. When he opened his eyes, he was somewhere else entirely. The scent of smoke filled the night air. A dim cityscape stretched out before him. Flickering neon lights, mist curling through the alleys. People were walking home from school, their laughter faint beneath the street lamps. Then, a familiar voice called out, Hey, Iha! He turned. It was Suozhou, waving with his usual bright grin. How was your first day at the academy? I heard you've already apprent. Shing! The sound of steel cutting through air. Before Suozhou could finish, a cold blade pressed against his neck. His smile vanished instantly. With lightning speed, he drew his sword, eyes sharpening to a lethal edge. The one standing before him, Iha, didn't move. His entire body radiated murderous intent, dense and suffocating. Then, slowly, Iha turned his head back. His eyes flickered, and he spoke in a low, almost regretful tone. Sorry, Suozhou, I got a little carried away. Suozhou's expression twisted in disbelief, his brows knitting tightly. Iha, you? The boy before him no longer looked like the friend he knew. In Suozhou's eyes, Iha appeared cold, dark, and inhumanly still, his aura sharp as a blade drawn from hell itself. What on earth had happened to him tonight?